Good afternoon. Welcome here to Le Mans. It is the second qualifying session for the 2017 Le Mans 24 Hours. We already had a couple of hours of qualifying last night, finishing at midnight, but now we've got another session up and coming. Last night it was the two Toyotas that were fastest. The number 2 Porsche was right on their tail, but it was very close, less than 1 second covering the first 3 cars in a 3-minute and 18-second lap around the 8.5 miles of this Le Mans circuit. It is another scorching day here in France. 60 cars getting ready to go out on the Circuit de la Sarthe. Will the quickest time of a 3:18.7 be beaten? That is the big question that we're going to be wanting to find out. The absolute track record is a 3:16.8 that was set a couple of years ago by the Porsche of Neil Jarni. Will that be beaten? I don't think it will be beaten in the next few minutes or so. My name is Toby Moody. Peter Dumbreck alongside me, together with Giles Dawson. Between you two guys, you've seen quite a few laps around here. You've driven a few laps, Peter. Very warm conditions. How might that affect the next 2 hours of qualifying?
Yeah, basically when you've got a hot track temperature like this, it affects the tyres in the way that you don't want it to be affected. They start moving around a bit more. You've got to use a harder compound, which obviously if you've got to use that harder compound, you don't develop the same grip that you would develop in a cooler condition. Therefore, lap times aren't as quick. So it's basically that.
Just to interrupt, we've just finished the podium there for the support race that finished a moment ago, the Road to Le Mans race. We've got some teams doing some driver changes. Is there a point at which you can't do any more driver changes, or are you always learning, always improving, Peter?
It all depends on if, you know, some of the drivers have spent all year together and they're used to getting in and out of the car. But the thing is with Le Mans, you've got 3 drivers in the car. The third driver might be a new car to the team, a new driver to the team, and therefore he's got to practice getting in and out quickly. We're also aware that because of this temperature, the time in the car might be cut to a shorter time, therefore more pit stops, well, not more pit stops, but more driver changes, because the heat in the car is a bit more than normal. We're experiencing well, where are we now? Probably about 30 degrees out there, or high 20s anyway. So track temperatures up into the 50s. And I think if it hits 32 degrees again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got a maximum time in the car of 80 minutes.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting in terms of the stint lengths. The LMP1 cars, we were calculating it last night. They're going to do 47 minutes on a stint. So there's no way they can go to this 80-minute stint time unless they short fuel. They're not going to do that. It's all about getting those stints in as quickly as you can.
Le Mans, 8.5 miles. Soon out of Tertre Rouge, you go down the Mulsanne Straight into the first chicane, the Forza chicane, then building speed again, and then hard on the brakes into the Michelin chicane. No big hump in the road. That disappeared some years ago around the Mulsanne kink. And then the fastest part of the course down towards Indianapolis. We're only 3/4 of the way round when you come out of Arnage, and then into the mighty Porsche curves, out of Corvette, through karting, into the Ford chicane. And the track record just over 3 minutes and 16 seconds. It looks easy, but this is a circuit, Peter, that is anything but easy.
Yeah, when you've got barrier and wall on various parts of the track right beside the track, it's not like, say, Silverstone, where you've got acres of runoff. Here, there's very limited things they can do. Obviously, they've done the basic things for safety, but there's still always going to be barrier and, as I said, wall right beside the track in certain segments, because it's a normal road. So that is one thing to think about as a driver.
Now, we've got one of the Jackie Chan DC racing cars going down to the end of pit lane and stopping. They've got another 10 minutes to wait before the pit lane is opened, but he's in the pole position, as it were, Peter. We had somebody go down there last night and wait there for 30 minutes so that he had a clear run.
Absolutely, and that's critical right now seems like completely the wrong thing to do to me. The track temperature is still far too high to be setting the real quick lap times that we're going to see coming, 10, probably 10 o'clock tonight, early in the session. But if the tarmac temperature stays up where it is now, we're up at 52 degrees tarmac temperature. If it's up that high at the start of the session, the tyres just aren't going to give the ultimate grip, as Peter was saying. That harder compound that you have to run, the harder the compound of rubber, doesn't get that same bite down into the surface, and therefore you just don't generate the grip. The tyre's sliding across the surface rather than biting in and giving you the ultimate peak G-force, which is what you're looking for to deliver the lap time.
Bumper crowd, capacity crowd. That grandstand has been full for about the last 2 hours or so opposite our commentary position. That grandstand opposite the pit's pretty full, and as you can see, a few people trying to get into the shade. It really is that hot here in France at the moment. I think there's one thing about Le Mans at this time of year. It's either boiling hot or it pours with rain for a week. There's not much in the middle, is there?
It always rains at Le Mans, I think, except 2017.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah, it's not over yet, mate. But what is this, probably 10th time here, 4 commentating, 6 racing, something like that. And yes, every year I see a load of rain, and it's always a factor. And suddenly this year it's not a factor, so everyone's going to think a bit differently.
Eduardo Freitas.
Good afternoon in the pit lane. This is race control. Session will start at 1900 as foreseen. And track is clean, track is dry. And please, again, ask your drivers to respect track limits.
Okay, he's explaining there that last night we had a delayed start to the first qualifying session. The second session we saw yesterday caused by an incident in the previous Road to Le Mans qualifying session, but no such issues tonight. We're going to be ready to go on time.
Yeah, talking about track limits. So we saw a lot of warnings yesterday. We didn't hear of any action, though, did we? So I wonder when they're going to start implementing some action, let's say, about these the cars running wide over the... well, the rule is essentially that you've got to keep 2 wheels on the circuit at all times. So if you've got all 4 wheels over the white line around the outside, then you've obviously exceeded those limits.
Yeah, I went and had a look today down at Tertre Rouge, and actually it's amazing how easy it is to roll off that curb, and that's the main gain in lap time, I think, from track limits. Peter, I think it's fair to say that if you can keep that running high and just carry the speed onto the Mulsanne, that's probably worth 5 or 10 kilometres an hour and the braking zone into the first chicane. And
it's worth all the way down. That's the thing. It's not just a short gain. It's you gain all the way. So definitely. And as night falls, well, I think we heard from Alan yesterday talking about exactly that. It's harder for the organisation, let's say, to take care of where the drivers are on track, and they can take a little bit more risk, and you can push the envelope that little bit more.
Further.
And I think this year they've got new cameras in place as well, but obviously those cameras are working in daylight, but in the dark hours it's a bit more difficult for them to pick up.
Yeah, I'm surprised Jonathan Palmer at most of his circuits has installed these pressure pads just beyond the curb, so that as soon as your wheel slots over away they go. Your picture is taken. The clerk of the course last weekend, where I was, decided that he would display them during driver's briefing for all to see, so that you could see who had been naughty during qualifying. Those pressure pads are a fantastic system that I think we'll see these guys employing for exactly that reason.
I'm in 2 minds.
Two wheels on the track is what it should be.
It is, but no one likes these Gatso cameras on the road, do they? You're cruising along, you're doing 55, 56 in a 50 mile an hour zone. Oh, I'm going a little bit too quick. All of a sudden, flash. Everyone makes mistakes, and I'm in 2 minds about how strictly it's governed. And of course, you've got to be safe and take safety as the first defence, really. But at the same time, you got to not push too hard back on the drivers and let them do their race.
Yeah.
However, when we were all growing up, and we're maybe sort of nearly the same age, give or take, this wasn't a conversation when I went to Silverstone as a teenager. So what's changed?
That is a good question. That is a good question.
Mansell thrashing around against Senna, wasn't even in anybody's mind. Was it because there was a tarmac, then a white line, then a red and white curb, grass?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And nobody did anything else.
You couldn't push that envelope of
Yeah,
grasscrete.
you
Grasscrete is, you know, loads of grip in the dry. You don't go near it in the wet. But you see people exploiting it everywhere throughout the world. And that's why my favourite circuits, dare I say it, are going to the bike circuits, where you've got nice flat curbs designed for the bikes. You can just put the wheels across them and you
They're
don't
not
get
flat.
that.
They're like the ones that are here outside
Yes.
the commentary box. They're slightly serrated, and they can take them because they've got grippy paint, you know, with sand and
Yes.
grit mixed into it. I don't know how they do it at a lean angle of 50 degrees. That's another discussion. But, you know, at what point do you make the curbs just so brutal
Yeah.
that it shakes the wheel off the car, you know? But as I say, in the early 90s, it wasn't a problem.
We
So
saw it last night, Ford chicane, people getting funny punctures, and I think we've got confirmed that the puncture on the Aston was the curb coming through the Ford chicane, walloping the sausage curb pretty hard.
You know about the Nürburgring, Peter, more than anybody else around here. They've got big curbs that have come up at 45 degrees, and they are 6-7 inches higher than the road surface, and you can't go near them because
you've
the
got to be
upright
so
will come off.
careful. You've got to be so careful. It's not so much that. It's if you touch one, it bounces you across the track to the other side. And as we know around Nürburgring, it's a bit like here in sections where you've got maybe 6 foot of grass and you've got a wall. And
Monaco with trees, as I call it.
and you just can't do it. So you've got to slot the car in between those cars. But they do have the other curbs where you can run the car right up on top. So it's a mixture of both. But you know, unless they take this place right the way back to having grass everywhere and not having the runoff and having like massive shunts like there will be. You know, at the moment there are sections of the track like the Porsche curves, etc. now where you can have an off, bring the car back on, no harm done. But in the old days, we saw Loic Duval just 3 years ago, massive shunt through the Porsche curves.
And Genet on the test day. How in heaven's name did he get away with it? And Loic, and also
Jan Magnussen last year,
Rockefeller,
and Rocky elsewhere. But the Davidson Corvette coming together.
Yes,
that Ollie Gavin. You know,
yes,
there wasn't much
the
space,
Corvette. He hit the wall on the absolutely.
The Marriott interview moment, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a fine line. In the meantime, we've got 2 minutes to go before the start of our second of 3 qualifying sessions. That Toyota rolls to a stop. It's in the queue. It's at the traffic lights, waiting for the red to go to amber, to go to green.
Surprised to see this level of queuing. Everyone's going to be wanting to work through a technical program at this stage. I really don't think we're going to see anybody going for lap time. But this is people desperate for track position. They want to get that first clear lap and understand what the track's at very early on in the session.
Interesting to see that the Colles car, number 4, is in that queue. We are sitting on board with the number 2 car. Timo Bernhard, we believe, is on board with this car at the moment. The Colles car got a bit of work to do, gentlemen. It's only half a second ahead of the quickest LMP2. Doesn't want to be embarrassed, doesn't it? Does it?
Well, that's it. The whole game has changed as far as LMP2. We've got much faster cars now. Every car's got a Gibson engine in it. Power has been raised, and it's looking like a very fast car out there. And all of a sudden, the slower P1s are under pressure of being overtaken by the P2s and having a proper race. So, as you say, there's only half a second in it. And I'm not sure how well Colles went last night, whether they really gave it a good run. I think race director's coming soon. Or not. I'm back on board with the Toyota.
I think the thing that you're going to see, I think there is still a little bit of pace left. I think when Marco Bononomi gets on board that Colles later, you're going to see that go a couple of seconds quicker than it has. But as you say, the last thing that the guys at Colles want to do is see themselves out-qualified. The Francois Perrodo on board the 28 car, he didn't set that time. I think that was Max Xavier who set that time very late on in the session.
Okay, We are go now for qualifying number 2 here of 3 for the 2017 Le Mans 24 Hours. Keep in touch with us through Twitter, through Facebook, through Instagram, and use the hashtag Le Mans 24. That is the annual hashtag that we utilize and that people can monitor, and you can see the pictures that have been taken by other people here at the racetrack or referring to what's going on. So then, the Porsche number 2, it is actually Earl Bamber at the wheel. I should have remembered that actually the digital recording device that knows which driver is in the car is only triggered when they exit the pit lane rather than when they are in the pit lane. So now we know who is in which car. So it's Earl Bamber who's got a clear view as they come into the first of the 2 chicanes on the Mulsanne straight. No longer, of course, a 3+ mile flat-out charge down to the far end of the circuit. The chicanes were put in 1990, off the top of my head. So it's been some years since we've had these chicanes. I always think they've been put in sooner than that, but actually I think the speeds were getting a bit too much, and there were some big moments and some nasty crashes down there in the 80s, and enough was enough. There was an edict put in from the FIA that no straight on an FIA international circuit could be longer than the long straight at the Nürburgring, the
Döttinger Höhe.
Döttinger Höhe. Thank you, Peter. Spoken like a native.
Yeah.
Which is 1.2 miles, I think.
I don't know. It's a get it into 6th gear and keep your foot flat. Yeah, on the Döttinger Höhe you tend to get onto it, and that's the place that you radio back to the team that you're Döttinger Höhe, all okay.
Now then, this is the fastest part of the race course, nearly touching 320 kilometers an hour, but the entry speed through that quick right-hander into Indianapolis is just staggering.
That's a great section, that. It's all, you maybe don't see it so well from the television, but it's really banked over, and if you fall out of that camber, a lot of cars go straight on. A lot of cars go straight on there into the wall when they, just fall out of that camber, and all of a sudden the grip level goes and they go over the gravel. So we saw it quite a bit last year. I've done it myself into the Porsche curves now, very fast with this. It's flat normally, that wall comes in, so it feels really narrow, that safer barrier out there. Almost touching the grass on the inside. Off camber corner here, you'll see he should go over the rumble just on the exit. Of course, that's a legal one. He's got his 2 wheels on the track.
And it's an outlap as well. Nuts. In fact, it's an installation lap. Goodness me. Now we've got a yellow flag at zone 18, which is on the exit of the 2nd chicane, and it's one of the Toyotas. It's Sebastian Buemi, and that thing has stopped. Now, 99 times out of 100, if there's a problem on the outlap, that's finger trouble, rather than him gone off.
Interesting that he's not bringing it back on. There we go.
Now we've got no noise. It just slows down. He pulls out of the way so that nobody hits him from behind.
What's interesting there is
braking.
Yeah, he's obviously, he's not coasted to a stop. He's actually braked himself.
Engine's still running.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not moving under hybrid power to bring it back on the battery, or at least trying to bring it back. That's a kill it. That's a. Here we go.
Let's listen to what's been going on in the car.
Stop the engine.
Okay, so he's been told there, stop the engine, stop the engine. That is going to be something critical. Now, normally, they've changed engines overnight. This will be a race engine going into the car to be looked after tonight, not stressed too far. Be interesting to see if they choose to send number 7 back out in case it's a recurring issue with this batch of engines. We've seen that, lots with Formula One with Honda, where they have these batch issues of a component within. This is not what Toyota want to be having tonight. They were hoping for a nice, smooth evening, no problems. Back on board, I think he's moving under hybrid power,
yeah,
no engine.
I think he's come back under battery power.
So he'll be able to do that. He'll be able to get round on battery. They proved last year they can do almost a full lap on battery. Yeah, so he's now coming down into Mulsanne. That was on the exit of the second chicane. It's definitely battery only. So what will they do with number 7? Leave number 7 in the garage until they know what's actually wrong with number 8? They clearly saw something in the telemetry data that they didn't like to tell him to kill the engine that quickly.
Has this hybrid unit got enough power to do
it should do
40% of the lap?
I think so. I think if it had been a bit earlier, if it had been after the first chicane, there would have been no chance. But I think he's gone that bit further now, and I'd be surprised not to see it make it back.
Because as you can hear on the onboard, that's electric motor power only.
The only issue they may have is whether he's actually harvested enough energy at that stage, because they do often discharge the system, and the system will sit discharged until they actually go out and start generating the power under braking, and also on the Toyota from the turbo as well. So they'll be putting that energy back into the battery and then sending the car out without a full battery, because it's going to go and harvest its own energy.
That's my point. Has it got enough juice in 60% of the lap of top-up when he braked at...
Interesting to see on the graphic.
Porsche Dunlop curves, S's,
Yeah.
Tete Rouge, first chicane, second chicane. Is that enough to top up the battery?
It may not be. The question, he's not using full throttle, so they're obviously talking him through it. They can see on the graphic there, top left, he was only using about 60% throttle.
I mean, doesn't need to get back very quickly, does he?
No.
But he's got to get back.
Well, and as I say, what are they going to do with car 7? If you know you've got a fundamental issue, you've put your race engines in today. You know, if you've got a batch problem,
Whoa.
you don't want to be sending number 7 out again until you know what the issue is with number 8. It could just be a sensor issue. They may get it back, change a sensor, and find there's absolutely nothing wrong with that car, but it's certainly not the way Toyota planned to start this evening.
Oh, dear. The McLarens, when they came here the first year in '95, they had a clutch bearing problem, and they had to change them very quickly, didn't they?
Yes.
You know, these things happen.
They
Let's
do.
make this better. Oh no, we're at the track and it doesn't work. Let's put the old ones back in.
So Laurent on board the Orica puts the LMP2 car ahead of the Collers LMP1.
By some margin, by 2.1 seconds. So what we were talking about when they were queuing at the beginning, at the end of pit lane before the session, has happened. This is at the number 37. This is the Jackie Chan DC Racing Orica, Cheng Gomendi and Alex Brundle. And that's limping home.
Clear.
And that's limping home. Who's at the wheel of that at the moment? David Cheng. It's all go this evening, isn't it?
Thomas Laurent a full 2 seconds clear of the time from last night for the 28 car. So we've got a lot to see.
That's an impressive lap there, considering it's so warm out there still.
So that's the fastest ever LMP2 lap we've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Out the box.
Out the box.
Fair play.
And I don't think you're
play.
going to see anybody go that much faster than that, even though the ambient temperature's so high. Interesting, though, that he did it on his first. So normally we see the second lap of the stint, second flyer. But this one was done on the first.
And Thierry Laurent, quickest LMP2 ever around Le Mans, 332 kilometres through the speed trap. That's tanking on that.
Impressive.
Now, we are on board with Sebastian Buemi, limping it back. This is proper get me home mode, isn't it? Get me back to the pits. The car failed on the exit, or something happened on the exit of the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight. The team radioed to him saying, stop the engine, stop the engine. But remember, these hugely technological race cars have got an engine, petrol-powered in the case of the Toyota, and an electric hybrid power, so 2 power sources to power the 4-wheel drive sports prototype car around the circuits of the World Endurance Championship. With the Toyota, it's a V6 petrol turbo, and then the hybrid battery gets charged up under braking. Instead of the energy being wasted when they're on the brakes, they recharge the batteries on the brakes.
Yeah, coming through the Porsche curves, I wouldn't want to be coming through there at that speed.
Yeah, just doing his best to keep off the line there, but you end up having to go on, like now, he's going to have to go onto the line for a little while and get back out to the left-hand side.
The white flashing light, the white waving flag, slower vehicle on the racetrack. The notice being given to the other competitors as they make their way through. I mean, this is your worst nightmare as a driver, isn't it? Oh, we lose the car for 2 hours. You can't get it back.
Absolutely.
Is not good.
Cleverly, he's just going to keep off the line there and cut the corner. No harm done. It's a safer way of getting around the corner. I mean, to be fair, I think he's going to make it now. He's done the bulk of the work. It's slightly downhill.
Still 2 cars going through, side by side in front of him through karting.
Eyes in the back of his head, just trying to stay out of the way.
Most terrifying journey I ever did was when my regular road car wouldn't start early one morning and I had to get to the airport, so I had to go in my 1967 Land Rover up the motorway. That was frightening because all I did was look in the mirror, hoping that a lorry was not going to rear end the old thing. And that's the same kind of thing that you're saying here. Well, he's got it back. Just a few hundred yards to go before he's actually safe into the pit lane. He's about to come into our view in front of our commentary position. And the car that's second on the grid at the moment has got a lot of work to be done so that they're sure it's going to be able to survive the next lap. In the meantime, the Colles car has improved. So Dominic Kryhammer has done a 3:26.0 and he's gone quicker than the LMP2 car that was ahead of it. So all the LMP1s are all together and this Toyota is back in its garage and they will make sure that that thing is tip-top and ready to go again very soon. The door opens and the Swiss driver ready to pop out in no short order. They don't need a drama like this after what happened last year. Things went so well for them yesterday.
Absolutely. That's what makes me think it's going to be something silly. They've done so much prep. They've already run all of these car parts at an endurance test prior to coming here. So they haven't had to bed in anything. All the corners are bedded, all the discs are bedded when they arrived here. So that engine will have run in a car before today. It's going to be a sensor. It's going to be exactly finger trouble. We're going to be looking at, where was that sensor calibrated when it got put on? No, actually, guys, we missed that.
Wasn't the Toyota that retired a couple of years ago, there was a chafing of the
wiring loom on the Davidson car.
And it was just little by little, and it eventually got through to the metal and it shorted or something.
And it was an ACO logger that did that. It was the car caught fire in the lead in the middle of the night. I remember coming in and taking over from Peter and watching the screen thinking, no, it can't be. They've never won this place. The luck that they don't have when they come here is phenomenal.
Rubens Barrichello debuting here at Le Mans. He's on board the Dutch Jumbo. That is the Lara Gibson. That is a quick thing in a straight line. They've actually admitted it's so quick in a straight line, it won't get around the corners.
That's it. This is the best place to Lara, but it's down into 13th. Is that 13th in P2? So Dalara's got some work to do. They've got a new aero kit for this weekend. One of the problems was they were too low on downforce, as you say. They couldn't get around the corners, so they need more downforce. So we're looking at, was that the pole position car there, 38, Laurent at the wheel.
So interesting that he did the time and then carried on for 2 more flyers. So he had enough fuel on board when he did the flyer to do 2 more. That's
I wonder, I wonder whether they had a softer tyre. He did it on the lap 1, and they're just seeing how the tyre was lasting.
Yeah.
During this hot temperature.
Yeah, when that crossover point comes, it's always hard to judge, but we've had such a warm day and we're likely to have such a warm Saturday that the tarmac temperature is going to be so high at the start of the race, they're all going to have no choice but to go with the hardest compound they've got.
Thomas Laurent, currently the pole position man in LMP2, having just done the fastest ever LMP2 lap around this Le Mans circuit, a 3:26.7, obliterating the record of last year. Sure, the cars have been given a bit more stride, a bit more power, a bit more air, a bit more grip, but that's a hell of a lap. And only this time last year, he was winning the Road to Le Mans here at Le Mans. So the proof of the pudding is coming forward for the ACO, for the organisers of Le Mans, that the Road to Le Mans can work, and he's certainly repaying their faith, isn't he? Won the Asian Le Mans Series at Buriram in January, and he said part of being the part of the WEC is now not a dream for me. I'm in it. He's certainly on the crest of a wave. That looks like Ollie Jarvis getting in, the number 38, the other driver in that car getting in. Yes, it is Ollie Jarvis, former Audi driver, winner of the Bahrain 6 Hours last year, outright the Bahrain 6 Hours last year, the final outing of the Audi diesel LMP1 car.
Now a Bentley factory driver in the Blancpain.
Still got a tear off, even though he's in the car, in a coupe.
Sometimes you use a different tint on the tear off to pull it down. You can use. I've seen drivers here in the past use different colour tear offs, particularly if you've got a potentially wet race. Run with a clear visor with a yellow tear off on it. Bring it down, you get the intensity from the yellow visor. Have you ever used the yellow visor principle,
I did,
Peter?
in Japan. When you're an RI kind of factory driver, which actually most of us in Formula 3 and Formula Nippon were, they have a helmet service at the track, every track you go to, and you basically hand your helmet over and they put a red flag on track.
Red flag. So red flag's been thrown. Something serious has happened here at Le Mans, and red flag been thrown in zone 12. Caution in zone 12, which is exit of the first chicane. Exit of the first chicane. Now, we don't have the cameras running on the backside of the circuit for yesterday nor today. We are coming up to that area of the racetrack on board with Mike Conway. So something has happened on the exit of this corner.
And as we know, they don't throw the red flag here that often.
Certainly not, Peter. Here we go. What's going on here? Yellow on the left. That was being thrown first. Something's happened on the right. On the right, somebody's gone into the barrier. Oh, biggie. Bits everywhere. That is an LMP2 car. Was that a rebellion? Was that a rebellion? I think it's made a real mess of those barriers.
Had a red wing on the back. Could have been the Eurasia.
It looked like the Eurasia car.
Okay, yeah.
Conway 3:18.6 last lap in the Toyota.
Oh, we missed that.
Oh, I missed that.
Fastest lap.
New pole.
We have a new pole, but it's still nowhere near what we're expecting to see. I'm just surprised to see all these teams choosing to go for it so early on this evening. Makes me more excited for the second session. Looking on the right, that is Eurasia, the Eurasia car.
Sorry, Peter. Yeah, good spot there. Good spot.
So on board that car at the moment is looking to the screens. 33, Eric Maurice.
Oh, that's a mess, that.
Yeah, I mean that's a strange place to go off as well, because normally that's a fairly straightforward acceleration out of the first chicane. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a traffic related. He's come quite a long way down the straight before he's made contact with the guardrail on the inside.
So yeah, you can see skid marks. So he has lost it on the other side of the track and skidded right across the track.
Yeah, strange place to drop it. By then, they're normally, calming back down, thinking about moving across the road.
Yeah, your wheel's normally straight by then.
Well, that's
bits and bobs all over the track, carbon fibre, so they're going to give that a good old clear up. They don't need that getting people's tyres. Obviously, punctures are definite possibility if those carbon fibre parts can be left on the track.
So, looks to me, Porsche don't have to be. Do they have to be coming in on the slow zone limiter once they're clear of the area? I don't believe so. So it looks to me like they're gathering some data there.
If, the course is closed, though, Giles. The course is no longer a racetrack.
Yeah.
And it's know what are you going to gain?
Yeah.
What are you going to gain? So, you know, the safety, as Peter has explained already this evening, is particularly paramount at this huge racetrack. So
I must admit, I don't know the rules here regarding that, but you would know, you know, you'd get up to
Yellow.
60-70%
Yellow flag pace.
After you get past the incident, you go back, because after all, you know, if there was something around the track, you'd still see more yellow flags.
There could be another accident around another corner that you don't know. So anyway, let's have a listen to Into the race director. What's he got to say?
Information to the pit wall, information to the pit wall. The driver got out of the car on his own. For a matter of precaution, we're taking the driver to the medical center. We feel he needs to be checked. He's going to be taken as a routine to the medical center.
Well, let's hope that he's okay. I mean, the safety and the structure of these cars is quite staggering. You know, the whole introduction of carbon fibre in the early 80s.
I think on the plus side, that is a fairly slow area. You're just accelerating, maybe in third gear, say, coming out of that chicane. So it's not a high-speed crash.
It's one of the Ligiers in LMP2, so that's the Nicolay father and son pairing sharing with Eric Maris. So they're in the right place to get that car repaired for the race. Those cars are built in the Techno Park here, over in literally in the centre of the circuit, one mile from the garages to their industrial unit. So if there's any chassis tub repairs to be done, they've got the rest day tomorrow to get that done. That's as long as they qualified all three drivers in the night practice last night. Not sure how they went with that.
Because this session here runs local time from 7 till 9, then we have an hour's break, and then there's 10 till 12 that we've got here later. So essentially 2 blocks of 2 hours of qualifying that'll now be truncated because we've lost time with this red flag tonight, which is what Giles is talking about.
You know, most teams will try to get all three drivers through. That's an obvious fact, but it's not always possible. There might be problems with the car, so they do rely on tonight's session to try and rotate through all three drivers. But I would say the majority of cars have done it last night. They've all, you know, the weather was good, as we know, so I think most of the cars will have got through all three drivers.
Get your banker in. And
exactly.
then have a play.
You never know when something like this is going to happen, so you've got to protect yourself.
Well, that's one of
that's
the
guardrail fixing.
Yep.
That's a post that's going to have to come out when they send out one of the large diggers. I want to call it a Manitou, but it's definitely not a Manitou. It's definitely a lot bigger than
we may well hear back from the race director about starting time again. If that's just driving out there now, then there could be a bit of a delay.
So then, just to recap, whilst that was going on, the pole position car, the number 7 Toyota, did improve upon its time of last night, which was a 3:18.79 to a 3:18.65. So just a little bit, but proof that actually the speed is out there on the racetrack, and Toyota have thrown the gauntlet down and said, we can go faster again on the pole position.
And talking to the guys again earlier, they're saying that a 15 is possible. So I just don't know why last night they didn't get it out of the way before they put the race bits on. Yeah, that's the flatbed now heading out. It's just headed out from in front of us at the Ford chicane. So it's going down to pick up the car, which is definitely not going to come back of its own steam. The damage to the right-hand side of the chassis there, I suspect, is going to be suspension damage and chassis pickup point damage on the right front corner. So the bits that are glued into the carbon fibre chassis that accept the wishbones that join the wheel to the upright, we see those, there's large Xylon panels inside the chassis there to stop those wishbones coming up inside the chassis. One of the improvements that have come with these new LMP2 cars.
Okay, more news from the race director. What's he got to say?
Information to the pit lane, information to the pit lane. I need to repair guardrails there. I will need to repair the guardrails there. I'm already sending heavy equipment onto the track. I'm already sending heavy equipment onto the track.
So.
Yeah, it's going to be a while, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I don't know. Just a guess. I would say 20 minutes maximum.
Absolutely. Just wondering if Geert is our pit reporter down in the pits and can get to the Toyota garage to find out what's going on with the number 8. Of course, we've still got that mystery, which could be news of the week to resolve, but no word from Toyota yet via any other means as to what's going on with that car.
They confirmed what we heard, that's all, on another message that I had, Giles. So the official word is from Toyota. Just advised to turn the engine off and return on hybrid power. We will update when we know more.
Interestingly, we know yesterday that this session was hampered a little bit, but they had to keep the time running because of a limited amount of time. They've actually stopped the clock, so it is 1:43.03.
They can choose to only give us a 40-minute, 30-minute break in the middle. They did that to us a couple of years ago, so they can.
At the moment, we do have the capacity just to.
It's just that they can't go beyond midnight, and there will be a gap between the sessions.
Is that going to be enough time for your pot noodle, mate?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
How long does he need? An hour? It's only a pot noodle, not a bucket noodle.
Yeah, absolutely. With the heat out there, it's a pot of ice cream.
Paul Howarth there, on behalf of Aston Martin Racing and ProDrive. My goodness me, he's been at ProDrive a while. He started there when there was Subaru Legacies, when in the late 80s, early 90s, and then saw ProDrive through the Impreza era, winning the World Championship, the World Rally Championship with Colin McRae, Richard Burns, Peter Solberg, 2001, 2003. And then got drafted over to the endurance racing side of the ProDrive company in Banbury, Oxfordshire. And not only are they involved with motorsport, but of course the America's Cup now, with the technology on the British boat with Sir Ben Ainsley and the Land Rover partnership that is there, and a lot of technology coming from the motorsports world going over onto the high seas with some pretty incredible stuff. I'm not that well versed on sailing, but I'm not. I'm not good.
I am well versed in Banbury, though. Seeing I live on the outskirts of it.
Yeah, but no boats in Banbury.
No boats.
No, only canal boats, I'm sure. But yeah, there's a lot of technology. There's a friend of mine that's been involved in making some of the tech that's on the America's Cup boat, the British entry to the America's Cup, which is, I think, going on in the Bahamas or something at the moment. I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, I saw a little program, and the whole team out there. Everything looks doing everything
because they're there for months, not even weeks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard something talking about that. I heard something the other day. The guy that wrote the Bond theme, right. 007, the Bond theme, English guy, and it was a bit. Oh well, shall I do this? Shall I do that? And the writers of the Bond film came to him and said, well, tell you what, why don't we take you and your wife out to Barbados, where we're going to film the next Bond film, so you get a bit of a feel for what's going to happen with Sean Connery walking up and down the beach. He said, fine. So that was the deal maker. So we went out there for 2 months, and then, of course, he made the famous Bond theme. Same kind of thing. So then, coming back to more serious matters with regards to Toyota, just to explain, the number 8 Toyota, which is at the moment second on the grid, went out of the pits, did half a lap with Sebastian Buemi, and this is what happened. Just listen. Buemi being radioed from the pits by his crew saying, stop the engine, stop the V6 turbocharged petrol-fueled engine, stop the car. They analysed what was going on, and he then got the car back to the pits under electric hybrid power only, and they are working on that car in the pits, as you can see, as we speak.
Yeah, I just stepped out to try and find out what's going on, and certainly still no word from Toyota, even insiders at Toyota. So I think that they're well, they're definitely investigating under the back. So it's
Floor's off as well,
yeah,
which is never a good
never
sign.
a good sign. Absolutely. So, I mean, sensors and things like that you need to get to. Often you have to drop the floor to get to something. It did sound like a normal installation lap acceleration coming out of the second chicane. It didn't sound, he wasn't on it. He wasn't pinning the throttle before the apex and sending the car up the straight, but it didn't sound like he was just, coasting or that there was a failure of some sort before they said, stop the engine, stop the engine.
So we're looking at the second in Pro Class 71, Sam Bird's car. I think, did Sam do the lap yesterday?
Sam did the time yesterday, yep.
So obviously that Ferrari is on the pace, up there with the Aston, just a 10th off in GTE Pro Class.
Again, in with the Corvette guys earlier on today, talking to Dan Binks, the man who knows all at Corvette, saying, the restrictor brake they gave us has pulled us back and it's not good, we're not happy, but we're going to get on with it in a true Corvette way. Smile, get on with it. We'll see where we are on Sunday.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was speaking to Dirk Werner, driver of Car 92 Porsche, and he was saying, we're struggling on top speed. We're the slowest car on the straights. So I think the car itself is working well. It's just they don't have the power, and again BOP. But he again wasn't complaining. They're not expecting a break. They're just going to get on with it and see what happens. But he's saying in the middle sector 2, they're losing a lot, and that's where
you need
down
torque.
the straights,
You need torque to drive you up to those big speeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Porsche engine certainly, it's a different approach. Everybody else is moving towards these turbocharged engines.
Let's catch up with Mike Conway. What's going on with the number 7?
Balance is good. Good front end, so just a bit of understeer in the chicane. So maybe it's worth trying the better 12 switch just for that. Everywhere else, just a bit of understeer. Balance is quite good. High speed Porsche curves is nice stable rear, just a bit of understeer. I think it's improved grip from yesterday, and the headwind is helping as well. So, repeat that again, please.
Entry stability, how is it?
Yeah, entry stability is good. Basically into 2, 4, you have into 5, 3, a slight light rear just in those places, but I think it's because you have a decent amount of pitch in the car in 2, but 7 is okay. Good into 8 and 11, 14 also, as well as 16. Always feels a little bit light there, just the pitch change, I think. And 18 felt quite good, but I never got a clean map, so it's improved. I think track has come to us as well.
Tires have quite cooled down, so I think when we restart, I will send you back on the R tire and then back to this V tire afterwards.
Okay.
That's good. They give us all sorts of information there. So that last part, they are on a softer tyre now. He's going to go on, once they restart, he's going to go into the harder tyre and try that out. I wouldn't have thought he'll be able to go anywhere near his 3:18.6 when he does get that on. And then they probably will try the softer one again. Porsche 2 is up, but, again, they've got a lot of time on their hands. I think that wall's going to take a while to fix. And he was saying a fairly stable rear end, talking through the numbers of he's got a little map in the car, a track map, probably stuck to his steering wheel or to the side of the door, and he's just going through the various numbers, which if we were to count all the corners, that would tell us exactly the corners he was talking about. But it's usually the heavy braking zones, so into the first corner, probably not to Tete Rouge. It might be a little bit loose on the turn there, but it would be the braking for the 2 chicanes, because it's such heavy braking. The rear might be a little bit light there. But I think in a race car, for myself anyway, a touch of understeer is always better than having some oversteer.
Change of nose for the number 1 Porsche. Peter, they have slightly different aerodynamic setups with regard to temperature, if my memory serves. We see this during the race come 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Well, they'll have a different downforce level on, you've got various things you can do there. So rather than muck around with the nose that's on the car, they've got the resources just to change the whole nose and save time, basically.
Yeah, not even a wiring connector there. Everything's on good old-fashioned. Remember, on the back of every Ford Cortina, a little pad that would press down to make the connection for the lights. It's super super simple stuff, and 2 bolts, 2 quick turn fasteners, they're away. And even from that point of view, headlight cleaning, it's easier to change the whole front end than it is to try and clean the headlights or have tear-offs on the headlights. We saw many cars go through, and you'll see the GTE cars with headlight tear-offs, but you won't see that with the LMP cars. So, sitting there waiting to go back out, that's the TF Sport Aston Martin.
Rob Bell, yeah.
Rob, the McLaren factory driver, but on loan to Aston Martin for the weekend.
Of course, he drove a couple of times in 2013, 2014 for the factory team in Aston Martin. So he's in a Pro-Am car this weekend, currently 3rd on the grid, number 90.
Yeah, and in the next garage to these guys, you'll see the Beach Dean Andrew Howard effort. Andrew here for the 2nd time in the GTE class, and some fantastic drivers in with Andrew.
Let's have another word from race director as how the barrier's coming along.
Information to the pit lane. According to the feedback I get, I will never be able to start track activity before 8:15. I may amend the timetable for this session and the next. Nevertheless, we will never have track activity beyond midnight.
Okay, we've lost a lot of time here this evening.
Yep.
That's thick end of an hour.
That's I think Rob got that information before we did. That's why he was getting out of the car. He was kind of hoping to get going again so he can carry on his program. But yeah, all the drivers now getting out of their cars. There's no point in sitting in there cooking. We got a good half an hour before anything happens at least. So
it's 7:37 here local time in France, and as race director said, we're not going to be rolling again until about 8:15. The session should stop at 9-hour break, and then we run for another 2 hours, 10 until 12. That's your grid at the moment. 2 Toyotas, the Porsche of number 2, then we have the Toyota, and then another Porsche, and then we have the Colles car in LMP1.
I think what this does mean is that's probably our grid. I don't think people are going to be wanting to go out and start trying to push later on because they've lost so much time. This is time, it's all well and good being able to go out and spend 20 minutes doing a session, a run to go and do that ultimate time, but it doesn't mean you're doing your race prep. You're here for 24 hours. You're not here for the headlines on the grid. So unless somebody's way out of place to where they think they should be, I think that we're going to see very few people going out and pushing hard for the headlines.
But, Giles, Peter, might you feel behind with race setup rather than absolute pace and, local newspaper headline stuff, vanity publishing, as I might call it, just, oh, look at the lap time I did. Yeah, well, that's 1 in 300 laps that you're going to do. Might you feel behind at the beginning of a race because you've lost setup time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we as a driver, you kind of hang around all week, and in the end, your actual track time is fairly limited. So by the time you go into your first stint in the car, that first stint, the amount of laps you're going to do there is more than you've done all week. So it's nice to feel confident in the car, and I think as Giles was saying, getting onto a race setup with a heavy fuel load and knowing what it's going to do, especially for the start driver, because that's the pressure's on him. He's got to hit it straight away in a group of cars, in a group of 60 cars on track, and not make any mistakes and know what his car's going to do underneath him.
And as an engineer, gaps like this aren't so bad because it gives you time to sit and look at that data that's come in from the last half hour's running. So you can sit there and analyse exactly what the changes you've made since yesterday have done, and try and understand the correlation in terms of lap time, in terms of the feedback the driver's giving, in terms of the balance of the car and what that's going to do to the tyre wear. So they will be looking at that. The engineers will not be sitting there thinking, oh, I can come back to my station at 8:15. This is the busiest moment for them, because they're not worrying about live data coming back from the car. They're worrying about that correlation, understanding how they're going to extract the best 40 minutes or hour out of the car for each stint.
I still think, though, that there will be teams, drivers that push on, and I think some of the cars will go faster. We might not see a change in pole position or in the fastest laps of the various classes, but there will be cars that, you know, for instance, Magnussen back down there, last position, GT Pro, certainly think, well, if you look at his sister car, is more than a second quicker.
Yeah.
So I can see they're going to push on and try and just move up a couple of places on the grid. So
the guys that feel they're out of position.
Yeah, I think there will still be some gains. Let's see. I mean, I really hope that we have another battle for pole position, and I hope Porsche push the envelope. And we still got 2 seconds behind last year's time, and Conway on a hot track. Once it cools down a bit later on, they could do that. They could go a bit quicker.
We're seeing the number 86 Porsche GTE car, the Mike Wainwright driven, I think at the time, come back in, the GTE AM car on the back of a low loader, which we hadn't spotted on our screens. Don't know what had happened there. Again, suspect that's finger trouble.
Yeah, and let's face it, it's it's their benefit. The other car crashing is their benefit, because they've made it back to the pits. Now they can have a look at that car
and if be it's ready for the second session.
Exactly. If it's a simple fix, they can get back out there and rejoin the session when it starts again.
Yeah, we'll see what we can find out about that, and obviously still awaiting news on the number 8 Toyota.
Lots for everybody to do here at Le Mans. The public areas full. The grandstands are full this evening. The shadows are getting longer as we speak, as we come up to 7:45 here in this part of the world, in France. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us around the globe. This is the world's most important endurance race. This is the Le Mans 24 Hours for 2017, the 85th running of the world's most famous endurance race. And people are coming in fancy dress. People are coming here in fancy dressed cars. People are coming in hordes of three-wheeler Reliant Robins. People are
coming here in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops because it's so hot.
Absolutely, yes. But it's a week. It's a celebration of motorsport. The atmosphere in the campsites. Everybody helps each other. Everybody's good-natured, and people with multi-100,000-pound cars are parked next to people with 1981 beige mini metros, and they all get on and they all have fun, and it is a high point for so many people around the world. A lot of Australian journalists here I've bumped into in the press office. Obviously, the army, the balmy army of Brits who make the trip south over the Channel. They drive, they train, some of them hire a private jet. It's just fantastic. I always say, working on the Dakar Rally, there are 100 stories a day to be taken as a journalist. Here, there are 200 stories a day, little nuggets, little bits and bobs. There are 60 cars with 3 drivers in a car. That's 180 drivers that we cannot get round in the days that we are here, but we try and glean as much information as possible. But out there in the campsites, there's little nuggets and little stories and such fun to be had. Derek Bell, he's in the paddock with Norbert Singer last year. Hans-Joachim Stuck walking around. Jürgen Barth I saw today. Stefan Johansson I saw on the picture a moment ago, winner of this race. There's history all around. There's ghosts around this place from a race that was started in 1923. It's just wonderful. Wonderful place.
Lots of conversations going on, lots of time to sit there and talk to the engineers over on their pit wall. be intrigued to hear what the conversation is there. Seb Buemi's got a smile on his face, so I'm hoping that means it's good news for the number 8 Toyota, and that actually it's a simple fix. No one there looks particularly grumpy. Nick Lapierre there, returning to Toyota after 2 years out. Big smile on his face. The third car, but watch that third car. I think that third car might just get there. I think it might be the one, just as we saw with Nick Tandy and El Bamber on board the Porsche with Nico Hülkenberg 2 years ago.
Stefan Sarazan, I just always think Vic Elford when I think Sarazan, because he drives anything and everything, and he drives it well.
He is a quick peddler. We were talking about it yesterday, weren't we? I think the thing we missed was hill climbs. You know, he also does a bit of that. He's done Pikes Peak. He is a very, very well-versed driver who you put him in anything any weekend. You know, he's a factory rally driver in effect. You know, I'm still surprised that we don't see him in a Toyota WRC car. But watch this space. I think, you know, when they do have the resource to throw another car out there, some of the tarmac events, if you see Mr. Sarazan win a WRC round, that might be quite impressive.
Yeah, and formerly with Subaru as
absolutely as a factory driver
as well. So yeah, he's got his own rally team. Let us not forget. This, to explain, is the number 33 Eurasia Motorsport Ligier that went into the barrier on the exit of the first chicane on the back straights. It has been returned to the pitch. The crew obviously not very happy with that camera going in there, but, well,
don't understand
that. No secrets to be had in there.
No, there aren't.
That's a chassis that you can buy off the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're just a bit upset.
Oh, they're embarrassed. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they're embarrassed.
They don't want people getting in the way. They need to get on with their work now and see if that car is fixable and how quickly they can fix it.
And of course, for the boys down there, they're tired already, and that's tonight gone.
Absolutely.
And it's warm, and the temperature out there takes it out of you. And now, what little sleep they were going to get tonight, long gone.
And these boys, it's not like they just rocked up on Monday, Tuesday. They've been here 2 weeks already.
Yeah.
You know, this whole Le Mans 24 hours. It's not just a few days. It's 2 weeks, minimum 2 weeks, if not longer, because there's the test day. Everyone has to arrive a couple of days before that. The whole crew stay down. The drivers, of course, go home, and the crew stay down. They work down here on the cars. They prep all the cars. They get everything ready, and gradually they lose more and more sleep, basically, as it gets closer to the 24 hours. And then they've got a full 24-hour race, which starts sometime in the afternoon, so they've got to get up early in the morning, prepping again for that. So it's a long old difficult event for everyone, and you know, you look around the paddock, and probably the easiest on the drivers than anyone else. You look at even the hospitality crew and the various Porsche Hospitality and all the different manufacturers, and these guys are living off 4 hours sleep a night.
The race engineers are the guys that I always feel really sorry for. I've done a few as team manager or race engineer, and you don't get to sleep. You have to be on it 24/7. Nobody's there to watch your back. Nobody's there watching the alarms, watching the fuel numbers. It's you. You know, the calls for strategy, they're on you. And you just have to be very awake. The best race engineers always have a right arm, which is another human who is there to check their sums, check that they're not making mistakes when that tiredness kicks in. And I've always found sort of 3 o'clock in the morning is the point where right. And then when the sun starts to come up, okay, now I'm with it. I'm back with it. Yeah. It's a new day. The motivation's back, and you can really start planning to the end of the race. You start choosing to plan from, rather than planning forwards, you start counting back. You say, right, 3 o'clock, this is where I want to be. How many pit stops do I want to make? How am I going to adjust my stint lengths? How much fuel do I want to put in to do that? So that's the exciting time for the race engineers who really do take a hammering.
Yes, this is the ultimate endurance race, not just for the cars. A friend of mine was in the next door garage to the Ueno Clinic McLaren in '95, and it came in on an unscheduled stop, and one of the guys on one of the corners was obviously not there. So my mate just picked up the wheel gun and helped them out.
Those days were the good old days. The WEC, when you walk along the paddock these days, just feels so professional, so clinical. The little teams, the last of the little teams that exist, really, down in the far end garages away from the shop we're looking at. The likes of the JMW Motorsport crew, they're still a true, almost family team. Jim McWhirter and his wife, run the team day to day. They've just upgraded to the Ferrari 488 from the 458, having sent it out with a win at its last race.
But I was trying to get myself a bit better versed with the rules and things, so I went on to the website, the WEC website, and looked at some of the regulations, and I got a few pages in, and then I realised, because it's something you never think about as a driver, it's 68,500 euros before VAT and tax to even enter a car here. That's before any other costs.
If you're invited.
If you've
qualified.
Yeah.
That's the third stage.
Yeah. So,
we can't be Peter, Toby, Giles, JulianRacing.com.
No.
Great to do it. Let's win the lottery and get 99 million quid and go. No, you can't come. You've got to earn your spot.
Exactly, and a lot of teams want to be here.
Right, update from the Toyota garage with regards to that number 8 Toyota that we saw with Sebastian Buemi being told to turn the engine off and then get the car back to the garage under hybrid power. They are changing the engine due to an oil supply problem. They're changing the engine, and
that's no small job then.
That's no small job. It's 10 to 8 here. And they've got to aim for 10 o'clock, so they've got 2 and a bit hours. And I don't know how long it takes to change one of those engines.
I would think that's got to be possible.
Yeah, I would agree. Split from the back of the chassis. They'll keep the same gearbox, so they'll split the gearbox. Clutch will be already on the new engine. Load the gearbox, load the engine, and away they go. It's a bit more complicated these days with the harvesting technology that they've got there. Some big old wires to connect as well, but it's certainly all designed to be very plug and play. The Eurasia guy is desperate for us to not see what's going on, but they've not brought the door down.
I don't think they're allowed to, are they?
Unless they're out the session.
Exactly.
Which
so
I
they're
think
not
they
planning
are,
that.
but
well, true, but is this session just going to move straight on to the next session?
In which case, a sensible thing to not bring the door down. So I think we might lose our gap. Just depends how accurate that estimate was in terms of the time that it's going to take to repair the guardrail. Again, one of the areas of circuit that's normally public roads, so that guardrail designed to take a large, 20-ton truck just as much as it is a racing car. So the posts will have moved. They will be having to replace not just the rails themselves, but also the posts that go down into the ground. So it's a fairly major operation to do. I stood and watched them do that down at Indianapolis last year, and the equipment they've got and the way they go about it's pretty slick. The guys know exactly what they're doing. I think they're well versed.
So as we see the temperature starting to drop, it's probably not quite as hot as yesterday. 24 degrees air temperature out there. It is 7 minutes to 8 though, so that's, time's ticking on. Temperature's still up there. It's nice this time of day, nice for the fans and everything. Some nice warm weather. For the drivers, again, it's not so bad. In the heat of the day, it does get very hot in these cars, but this time of night, it's not so bad.
Yeah, and Toyota running without air conditioning. I think they're the only car here with no aircon, but they're running enough fresh air through the cabin to keep the hybrid pack cool, which sits next to the driver, that they feel they just don't need it. They've got no issues whatsoever. Yeah.
Quick view of Emmanuel Collard there. I'm willing to bet that he's surely in the top, 5 of drivers that have done this race the most. That are currently on grid.
Race director.
Yeah.
Information to the pit wall. Information to the pit wall. It seems works are going better than expected. Efficiency is always good. We may be able to resume the session before 8:15. We may be able to resume the session before 8:15. I will come back to you with new information at 8 o'clock. I will come back with new information. It seems everything is pointing to be able to gain some time on the estimated stop.
Okay, well, that's put a bit of urgency into the number 35 Signatech Alpine garage, and now, well, they've had their time, and now it's time to get in the car and get serious.
Car's still sitting there. Most of these cars still sitting there with tyres on rather than tyres in ovens. I'm wondering if they're not leaving the softs in the oven, because we saw everybody go down very early at the end of pit lane at the start of the session, but it would seem like a pretty strange thing to do, to not have the pressure stable out of the oven.
Yeah, obviously it's a fairly long outlap, so maybe they figure there's enough time to get temperature in those tyres. This delay wasn't really expected, but we did hear from the Toyota Conway car that they were expecting to go on a harder tyre in the next run. So I think there's a lot between all the cars out there. You're going to be some on a softer tyre, some on a harder tyre, and those softer ones obviously will come in that bit quicker. There'll be a bit more movement. They won't last so long in the heat, but as we've already talked about, it's starting to cool down a bit now.
Yeah, and obviously the reduced running, they've got a certain number of tyres allocated to qualifying only. With the amount of time that we've actually lost through the sessions, then that allocation, it's going to be pretty tough to use it up. So they'll be able to take their pick. They'll be able to be picky about compound and say, actually, I've got plenty of softs left because I've not run them. So we'll see who goes which way. The new graphic that we have from the ACO is pretty mega in terms of the way it shows us how many laps each tyre has done, the compound and the brand. So we've got a tyre war here in LMP2 and the GTE classes.
So there is the new engine already going into the back of that number 8 Toyota. They might be out before 9 o'clock, which is in just over an hour.
Something they'll have practiced lots, just get it done, understand exactly what they've got to do. They'll be slick in terms of that man knows that he's doing those 5 bolts, that man knows that he's doing those 10 bolts, that man knows that he needs to disconnect the fuel line and the wiring, and they'll have rehearsed the whole thing exactly. They can do it blind.
This isn't a road car, it's specifically designed that they can make these changes as quickly as possible, so they do know what they're doing and they can do it quickly.
Be interesting to see if they have changed the gearbox as well.
So we've got a red flag here during our second qualifying session at Le Mans for 2017. Some of the barriers been damaged by the number 33 Eurasia Motorsport Ligier. No problem at all though for Eric Maris. He's okay, but not much running before that red flag came out. So we're waiting for that barrier to be repaired so that safety is back to 100%. The car's got back to the garage. The mechanics are working on it already. Will they be out by midnight tonight? Let's see. Keep in touch with the 24 Hours of Le Mans with the app available on Google Play or through the App Store. Follow us on Facebook, through Instagram, and also on Twitter, and use the hashtag LeMans24. LeMans24. See what other people are doing. See what other photographs people have taken. Keep in touch wherever you are around the globe. At the moment, it is the 2 Toyotas on the front row, with the number 7 leading the number 8. The second row at the moment is Porsche Toyota. The third row is Porsche, and then the Colles car. We've seen an absolute record from the LMP2 car of Thierry Laurent. The number 38, Jackie Chan DC racing car, has done a 3:26.7 around this Le Mans circuit to be the fastest ever. That, though, is the number 7 car, Kobayashi, getting in there.
All they were doing there was a slight cooling slot adjustment on the front of the chassis, just to allow probably a bit less cooling. Now the ambient temperature's coming down. They'll establish what they want for the race, because they're not going to be making those smaller changes in the race unless they're breaking the nose. But we'll see how the race goes on in terms of what the weather's going to do. But certainly still looking very dry and very bright for the rest of the weekend.
An interesting thing that Mike Conway said earlier on when we heard his radio is that he reckoned the track was actually quite high grip, so better than yesterday. Of course, we've seen the Road to Le Mans Championship running and various other, the Porsche Championship, so the track being continually used, more rubber going down, and obviously it's reacting. His car was reacting well to that. He set a new fastest lap in this hot condition, and the track seemed to be quite high grip. So, yeah, I think we're all hoping that the times will tumble a little bit as we hit the night session.
Meanwhile, the back of the Toyota tended to. That engine, new engine going in already. The other little tricks of the trade that they have, of course, is, a box in the back of the garage for that area of the car.
No, all right.
With what?
With ice creams in.
Julian will have eaten them. So Julian's on later. But box in the back of the garage with the right sockets and the spanners for that area of the car. In the old days, if there was a turbocharger, the turbocharger will have a 10 mil, a 12 mil, and that's it. You don't have to fish around in the box. Has anybody got the 12 mil? No, it's in the... For the sake of the budget, what's another 12 mil snap-on spanner?
Exactly, and that we were talking about that earlier with some of the prep with the teams. people skimping and saving here and there. Save £1,000 on that component that might just fail after 1 hour. So, Eduardo Freitas.
Information to the pit wall, information to the pit wall. The crew repairing the guardrails estimate that between 5 to 10 minutes they will have everything finished and we can go green. The crew repairing the guardrail estimate that within 5 to 10 minutes we can go green and resume the session.
Good news then. We can get started again soon.
Wondered whether we'd see people firing up and straight down the pit lane to the end as we have the last couple of session starts, but nobody's heading that way quite yet. Wondering if the LMP2 times, if you look at that gap now, that's going to be the interesting one.
Pole in second. I think we just saw that Laurent got that lap in. No one else. Either they didn't push for it or they got traffic. I can't see how he's going to be 2 seconds faster than the next car up, Collard. As I was saying with Collard, very experienced driver around here. He's done this race so many times in different cars.
But what was interesting to me last night is that Mathieu Vaxivière was the guy that set the time in that car. Now, I don't think Manu would claim to still be ultimate pace. He's certainly safe pair of hands, massive experience. Yeah. I suspect there to coach Mathieu through this first Le Mans 24 hours for him. But, Francois Perraudot, a pretty handy driver, but being blown away there by the young 18-year-old.
Is it 18?
18.
Wow.
It's impressive. It's the most impressive young drive I've seen so far. When you look at the fact that we've got, how many Formula One drivers that in that class? An awful lot of very experienced drivers.
Toby's now stood up to start counting them all.
And it's recent Formula One drivers. We're not talking about guys that have been out of Formula One for 10 years and chosen to come back the way that Jan Lammers, for instance, has. We've got Rubens Barrichello in there. We've got Victor Scheitar. No, not Victor Scheitar, sorry. Bruno Senna.
Karun Chandok.
Yep. Some mega drivers.
Vitaly Petrov, yeah.
Petrov, who set the time in the second Manor last night. It's some proper drivers in there.
Albuquerque, did he make F1?
Albuquerque tested, didn't he? But he was never made a main driver. There's an awful lot of very...
Yeah, we talked a little, or I did yesterday, about the kind of move in motorsport and how... we've got some race director information.
Okay, information to the pit lane. Good news is the repair crews are leaving the area. Good news is that the repair crews are leaving the area. We will be starting the session on a very short call. I estimate 2 to 3 minutes. To be able to go green at pit exit, which is, even so, quite a good job which they did in repairing it. So we will be starting the session in a short call in a very few minutes.
Fantastic job in repairing it, and we see the number 7 Toyota straight down to the end, and the number 9 now sitting on pit apron as well. So why is Conway wanting to go out there and stick it? Is he going to go for a 15 now?
Well, we did hear that he's going to go on harder tyres. So unless they've changed the programme again, or they're just trying to trick us and Porsche.
Exactly.
Porsche could be listening in. So, yeah, I don't know.
No point in sending him down to the end that early on hard tyres.
Well, they're trying to use the time up effectively. I think that's what it's all about. They
But
know
then
that it
number
could
9
be
back
cut
into
short.
the garage now. So they've obviously decided to change something of the strategy there on number 9, because it was sitting ready to go on pit apron. And that's the two Porsches there as well. So Porsche getting serious now. Maybe this is the moment that we're going to see the challenge.
Just going back half a moment, guys. 15 former Formula One drivers of the recent era.
That's pretty impressive. That this
Yeah.
LMP2 category attracting that many of those guys.
Yeah, Pedro Lamy as well. Well,
Yeah,
recent-ish,
yeah.
but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Give me that one, please.
He and Jan
please.
Lammers can have it for
This was a bit before
prosperity's
that,
sake.
yeah. Fishy, obviously, and things like that. So, you know, Sarah's Antwell, yeah.
Will
And
Stevens
people who've driven
in
Formula
the-
One cars that you might not know about, like Andy Prio, who's driven a Formula One car. So, and
Yes, he
let
has.
us not forget, driving in a Grand Prix has been Andre Lostra.
Yep, in the Caterham.
Just that one time. So, yeah, 15.
Will
15.
Stevens.
Karen Chandok.
Yeah, Karen, but Will Stevens is one that I think is particularly interesting in
16
terms of
then.
his
Missed him.
split. Yeah,
Right.
he's split the whole program this year. He's walked away from his ride in Formula One and decided that this is the life for him. GT. So Porsche number 2. We're going to hear from Kyle Wilson-Clark probably.
Team elevate, please, debris around first chicane exit area.
Okay, so that's Timo Bernhard on board in there. Earl Bamber was in that car earlier.
So just reminding him there about the crash, about the potential for loose bits of carbon around that first chicane. It's not really on the racing line. The racing line is far on the left as you leave the chicane. The car went into the wall on the right, so I would think it's fairly clean on the racing line.
Timo Bernhard, yes, he's won this race before with Audi, but he was a Porsche junior driver and brought through the Porsche GT side of things from Weissach, lent to Audi, as it were.
Exactly,
But he says quite openly, you know, I still need to complete the circle for Porsche and win Le Mans with Porsche. Quite that crossover, Peter, between Porsche and Audi, and they lend a driver here and they lend a driver there, and he drove the Porsche LMP2 car as well. You know, that's something that's been very successful for them.
He did, yeah. He's that's the thing. Modern motorsport, there's a lot of, as you say, lending going on. So the session starts now, and yeah, big queue cars to get out. So everyone's very keen.
Is that the 9
has
or
been
is that
cut
the
a bit
8?
shorter.
That's a 9.
9.
Okay, so still waiting for the number 8
We've
car
got
to
an
have
hour
it
and
fitted.
20 to go of this session now.
And I suspect that means we'll get the natural gap between the sessions.
Half
we
an
won't.
hour.
Yeah,
We'll get a half an hour gap, yeah. So is that long enough for that pot noodle? You
I've
reckon
got a
30
barbecue
minutes?
to fire up, yeah.
Look at the speed, look at this. Within 30 seconds of leaving the pits, this number 7 Toyota is doing over 200 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight.
Brand new mediums.
Fantastic.
Brand new medium tyres on the number 7 car, so not ultimate lap time tyres.
No, as we know that Conway was on a slightly softer tyre when he set his lap. Was it the last lap of the last session? So he set pole position. Kobayashi now in the car, and he's on the medium tyre.
Which is probably more what they feel. Yeah, strange to do that mid-straight. It's probably more what they feel that is representative of what they'll be on the race at this stage. They certainly wouldn't be on a hard tyre coming into the evening. So it's these crossover points that we were talking about last night, where we're going from the hard into the medium and then into the soft. hards on number 2 Porsche, so they're not going for a lap time. Timo Bernard accelerates away out of the second chicane, starts to weave to bring the tyres up to temperature. The temperature they've lost sitting there at the end of the pit lane. Going to hear Kyle Wilson, Clark or Timo Bernard now.
Just coming out very quickly. It's coming out very quickly. We'll be ready to go, man.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, a little bit of information for the driver from the pits. They're obviously looking at the telemetry, and he's just saying the temperature of the tyre is up, so you don't feel scared to push on it straight away. You know, it's ready to go.
Meanwhile, back down there with the number 8 Toyota, engine change going on in that garage. And the old one has been shunted out the back, and the new one is already being bolted to the back of that tub. And that should be going in I don't know, another 20 minutes, half an hour or so. They're very secretive, as you know, Peter, about people seeing the back of these LMP1 cars with the engine cover off. They don't like people seeing at all.
That's right. They spend millions and millions on these cars, and they don't want to give their information away to other teams.
You know, weight balance. Where do they put this? Where do they put that? It's. I'd love to see.
The funny thing is,
under the covers.
The funny thing is, Toyota know pretty much everything about Porsche and Porsche and vice versa. So you know, they're not giving much away. They already know.
Yeah.
On board with Romain. Again, another former winner with Audi, former winner with Porsche.
Last year's winner.
Exactly.
Don't forget. Yeah.
So, yeah.
The LMP2 ranks again. So there we go, talking about these, you know, guys that have come there.
Okay, first flying lap now started for Kamui Kobayashi in the number 7 Toyota. The Toyota that is on the pole position here at Le Mans at the moment. A 3:18.6 is that on the cards as he rattles it up to the Dunlop chicane. The thing that stuns me about that left-right sequence is you think, oh, they just go left and then they turn right. No, they accelerate between the left-hand apex and the right. It is a total recalibration of a layman's brain to watch an LMP1 car up there.
Absolutely, the downforce that these cars have got is absolutely unreal. They're on Formula 1 levels, and when you look at the lap times around Spa, somewhere like that, where you've got a direct comparison, you know, these LMP1 cars, okay, the new F1 cars this year have taken a massive leap, but these things were catching up very fast with our former 2016 Formula 1 cars.
Peter, what's it like when you go down these longer straights? Does it feel like they take 30 seconds because your brain is running at 50 frames per second rather than 20?
For me, I'm generally looking at those markers. You can see them. You see the building. I think there's a bar on the left-hand side. You see the 300, 200, 100, and you've got your braking point somewhere in there, and you're just focusing on that braking point. You're not really even looking at the corner. You're just looking at the braking point. And if you're braking at, say, 150, get ready, nail the brakes, and then your eyes flick up to the corner. So you start trying to control the car, going down the gears, etc. So far, fairly clean. He's passing these back markers in a tidy place. So
purple first sector, 31.1, fastest of all.
And we know he's on medium tyres as well. So Kobayashi is pushing on.
Okay, 1:47.4, the next sector to beat, 46. Oh, he's annihilated it. He's 1.6 seconds up at the halfway point around this circuit. The car has done an 18.6. If it does a 16.8, that's doable to get the absolute track record around here, which was pole position 2 years ago.
On medium tyres.
Wow, here we go. So then, rattling it through the right-hander in towards Indianapolis, 288 kilometers an hour,
Picked up the throttle.
170 mile an hour, picks up the throttle into Arnage, painfully slow. You probably feel as if you could get out and walk through there, but now the speed starts to pile on.
Not quite, mate.
Not quite. You know what I mean.
This
he is fully lit. You know, when you consider this is his first flying lap of the session of today.
And these tyres are likely another purple sector for the sector 2, but I think these tyres are likely to come on harder in the second lap.
Clean lap, still a clean lap. Look at it, there's nobody there as he's kissing curb to curb.
Yeah.
He comes out of the quick left-hander, just the last little kink to go. He's coming into our view in a moment.
A nice view, no one in front.
He was up at the first, up at the second by 1.6 seconds. Surely he's going to take the pole position. 3:16.8 to beat. 3:16.8 to beat. He's going to do it. He's done it!
Boom.
Absolute track record. Not even better than a 3:15, a 3:14.7. He has annihilated the track record by 2 seconds.
But Yanni
is on his tail, and he's done a 3:17.2. That is the fastest ever lap of Le Mans that you've just seen in front of your eyes. First flying lap. Wow.
Toyota, Porsche though. Bernard improves as well. So we've now got the second Toyota down in 4th position.
Smoked him. 3:16.8. Huh, who are you? Doesn't even go to the 15s, straight into the 14s. That is an enormous leap in engineering terms.
I mean,
on hard tyres,
medium tyres.
Medium tyres.
Let's listen to what they've got to say to Kamui Kobayashi.
Awesome. Mega, I think I cannot say it more.
He said he can do it again. Oh, box this lap. Okay. What a lap. What a clean run he had.
Yeah,
I can only remember seeing one Ferrari on the ball
I
side.
think he passed 2 cars on the straight and he got them in a straight line, not at the chicane. So perfect lap, absolutely perfect. If there was one point at where was it? Was it Arnage? He was slightly off his apex,
Missed
but
the apex.
that's the only thing that I saw apart from that perfect lap.
Giles, weren't they supposed to slow?
We're here with Rob Lubin. Rob, absolutely 3:14. That is
Supposed to be slowing these cars down
amazing.
by 4 seconds.
Yes, it's great. We're hoping at 3:15, but what Kamui did and his engineer and great job.
Slow them down.
See how it continues. Hopefully also not late back today. And then
The engineers always find a way. They always find a way to bring that pace back. It's the thing that engineers do best. You know,
we heard
the
Mike Conway during the red flag
tiny
saying,
hits
okay,
here,
we're going to
there,
put
and
on
everywhere.
hard tyres for the next one. When did you decide to change the strategy?
Porsche with Timo Bernhard. We're on board with him. He's trying
When
to
did
do
you
a
decide to change the
3:18.1.
strategy? Because we heard Mike Conway, we
He
should
did a
put on hard
3:18.1
ones
a
for the
moment
next
ago,
part.
But he's still 3.3 seconds back of Kobayashi's absolute track record. Now the sun starts to set. The wiper has been moved. You can see a bit of the smearing of the bumps and the flies that have been smacked into the windscreen of that car. But that is a lap. That is a lap. The local newspaper, it always has the pole position guys on.
Miss Le Mans.
Yes.
And
Miss
she
Le Mans.
arrives at midnight.
She arrives at midnight to celebrate that pole position, but I didn't expect a 14. No way.
No.
The only person who said to me all week that a 14 would be possible was Alan McNish, and I think he had it on good news.
Well, to be fair, Lotterer, when we were speaking to him yesterday, he expected the lap record to be broken as well. He said that car
Big
running wide there.
B2 car.
Should be safe.
One of
He's
the
held it
manners.
together. Is that
Not
40?
one of the
Car
manners.
40.
The Graf Racing car.
Bradley on board, or is that?
Richard wouldn't normally make a mistake
No,
like
it's,
that.
Matelli on board that car. Yeah, we spoke to Lotterer yesterday, and he said, well, the good thing about it is because he's got the race lap record, and Neil Yanni has the qualifying record, and it was Yanni's record gone first. So Lotterer's is still intact.
For now.
For now.
Let's wait till what? 7 o'clock Sunday morning?
Yeah,
6,
absolutely.
7,
That
happy hour?
happy hour, exactly, where the track's as good as it's going to be. The air temperature's still low, and that's when those fast times start getting pumped in. So
Bit of history there. We've seen Jensen win. Bit of history.
And I suspect that will stand for a long time.
Whoa, it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
That's true.
We've got another couple of Toyotas, one getting a new engine, you know.
Racing driver here, Charles.
Absolutely.
Let's not forget that.
Us team managers tell him to slow down, he won't.
Just having a look, 6th place overall, LMP2, Vitaly Petrov at the wheel of the 25 cars, just done the fastest P2 lap ever around here now. Moves back ahead of the LMP1. Dominic, is it Dominic Kryhammer? So, yeah, he's half a second ahead of the P1 car now. Very tight fight down there. So, obviously, what we heard from Conway, the track really is up on grip. We're seeing fastest laps from the GT Pro cars as well. Johnny Adams in the 97 cars just done the fastest lap for Aston Martin. Of course, Nicky Team still the pole position car, but they haven't improved today yet.
Unbelievable, that P2 time. That's quicker than the Rebellions qualified here last year. In the LMP1 Rebellions, we should say.
Yeah, that's right.
3:25.5. Hold on, caller. That's quicker than the pole position of Benoit Treluet in the Audi R18 from 2011.
Wow. That shows how far these have come on.
Not 2004, 2011.
Seriously, seriously impressive. We have team radio from Porsche car 1.
Yeah, first 3K, 81 and 2, I can do more. Open Porsche is a bit more, but yeah. Maybe with new tires there is a bit more in it, but overly. Yeah, copy that. Good job.
Subdued voices down there for a moment.
The words there that intrigued me were, with new tyres, maybe there's a bit more in it, which kind of suggests that they were trying pretty hard to do that 17.
Or were they on old tyres?
But how much time in a tyre around this place?
Well, a new set of tyres is always.
A second?
Kobayashi out the car, so he's done one lap, boom, pole position, out the car. Conway in now. So, what we heard from Conway earlier on, or unless it's just reverted back to him being number one, because obviously it hasn't left the pitch yet, so maybe he hasn't.
No, he's on an outlap.
Oh, he is, right.
He has left the pitch because then it triggers at the end.
Yes, of course. So Mike probably now is on the harder tyre, as we heard the engineer earlier on. So Kobayashi went on the medium tyre. Mike maybe back on the harder tyre now.
They've got to work for the race. Let's not start getting too...
But Mike will be seeing that delta on his dash thinking, I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that.
Yeah, and just losing time. Every corner, every acceleration. What we're talking about here is we've got the delta lap on your steering wheel, which is the ultimate lap that car has done. It's recorded in the car, so you get an update every few 100 meters or so, and you're basically watching that time get longer and longer, and you're basically going slower and slower than that time.
Getting more and more depressed. So one of the cars, is that one of the Manor cars into the technical area to be weighed?
Johnny Adam has now gone fastest, so he has bumped Nicky Team down to second position in the Aston Martin. He's done a 3:51.8. So Aston 1-2 and GTE Pro. Interestingly, Ford have moved up the order, so having been nowhere yesterday, well down, they're now 4th and 5th with Dixon and Muka.
But they definitely weren't sandbagging.
Definitely not.
They were 5th after last night on a 54.1, and they'd done a 52.4, 52.5. So, yeah.
The track hasn't come alive by 2 seconds, I don't believe. I don't think I've ever seen that bigger game.
Mike Conway, the Conway car is 4 seconds faster than yesterday.
But well, track 2 seconds quicker. Have you ever known it round here? 2 seconds found in a day?
I don't know.
I
would like to hear a little bit more from the drivers that are.
There's a fence and you're sitting on it.
Yeah.
Splinters in his backside.
The only driver we've really heard from has said the track is quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, you're right. I mean, the interesting thing about the 97 GTA Pro pole sitting Aston is that's Johnny Adams setting the time. Last night, it was Darren Turner setting the times in that car.
In fact, was it not Daniel Serra setting the time? Anyway, they're all quick.
They're pretty strong driver lineup, yeah.
Fisichella going quickest in his car now as well, only 6th position. A change in GT Am as well. Dries Van Tour going quickest in the Ferrari 84 car, pole position in that. And then Fernando Rees, his quickest lap in the Chevrolet, the one that was crashed yesterday, the 50 car, so moving up to 2nd.
Just coming back to that 3:14 from the Toyota tonight to be the absolute lap record around here, and now obviously the pole position at Le Mans compared with the 3:18. That's 2% increase, that's 2% gain. 2% is enormous.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as was pointed out to us yesterday by someone on Twitter, I could probably find that tweet later. A spin for the 98 car. Who's on board that? That is Paul Dalla spinning at the first corner. No harm done, getting the car spun right. These cars are supposed to have been slowed down for this year. And we did talk about that and how technology moves forward. So even though they slow the cars down, other parts of the car, the tyre, etc., moves forward. Just a simple oversteer over the curb, caught the curb on the inside, dropped the rear, spun it round.
I always remember this, and Giles, you'll remember this. Peter probably as well. You know, when Max Mosley said in F1, "Oh, we're going to put a financial cost cap." Thank you.
I do remember that.
And Ron just said, "Well, we'll just get a bigger motorhome."
Absolutely.
And he did.
Yeah. I mean, the cost discussions in Formula One were just crazy.
They'll just have bigger, fluffier napkins. You know, that's
exactly
what will happen. And the human race, when it wants to decide to do something, or a team with 200, 300 people in it, if they want to do something, they will get it done. I always remember in December '68, that was the first time an Apollo rocket, any human being of anything, left the orbit of the Earth. Within 6 months, they had landed on the moon. Within 6 months, in 1969, when the technology, as you know, was a little bit more basic than one's mobile phone nowadays, because they wanted to do it to beat the Russians.
Absolutely.
So, and it's the same mentality with engineers. We're going to do it. We will just work to a deadline, which is June the 17th, 18th, and we will get it done come hell or high water.
And these guys will be releasing new updates to small parts of the car every week. You know, I'm used to seeing it, you know, sometimes you don't even get to make the part before they've updated it again.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the analytical way, the checking processes they have. Here's a drawing, it goes through a senior management loop, and they say, actually, have you thought about this? And then they send another engineer off to go and investigate that. And the best teams, that's exactly what we're seeing. On board with the 66 Ford, which has on board it at the moment Stefan Mucker.
Going slowly down the Mulsanne towards the first chicane.
Puncture, do we think?
Can't hear any onboard noise. And he's not on an outlap. So let's have a quick catch up with what's going on in there with Mucker.
Stefan, go slowly, please. It is a real puncture. Bring the car back slowly. Box, driver change.
Okay, so that's a long way to go with 3 wheels on your wagon.
Julian Soul, I think they're calling that to him.
So yeah, they obviously can see that telemetry. They know he's got a puncture, and they're saying to go slow so that the tyre doesn't fall apart and start ripping the bodywork to shreds.
See on the Fords later on the amazing lights that these guys have got that are lighting up those tunnels down the side of the car and down the back, down towards the back wing. It's going to be quite distracting, I think, for other cars as they come up slowly behind them. What we're going to see here, one of the LMP2 cars.
Oh, yeah, you can see it
there's
go.
the puncture, yeah. Just let it go on turning.
He did well not to have a spin out of that one.
Very.
Normally when I guess it was a gradual thing. Maybe he felt it coming and had already backed off. But, yeah, if you get an unexpected blowout like that, quite often you spin right across the track.
Thank you to our co-commentator, Julian Porter, who's just alongside me. He's just pointed out a tweet that's come from Alex Wirtz. So if you're on Twitter, go and look at Alex_Wirtz. He's videoed the Toyota team in the garage as Kobayashi got the lap record. And they are like, What? You've done a 14 from a 16? So there's a good bit of footage on there.
He's done a 14 from an 18.
Yeah. I should say, yes. Good point. So quite something.
Nice to see Ollie Gavi moving up as well, up to 4th place in GT Pro. Fastest lap for that car all weekend. A 3:52.3. What did they do? Didn't they do a 3:52?
Sorry, who are you looking for?
Ollie Gavin. He was the fastest in the test day, wasn't he? Where's that sheet?
He was.
Was
test
that a
day sheet is
3:52
here.
as well? So
That was he says, tearing the piece of paper that Toby's lovingly prepared.
3:54, wasn't it?
We did a 54.8 last night, did Ollie Gavin?
So Ollie Gavin was 3:54.7, yeah.
Yeah, so they're finding their feet now. They're 2 seconds faster than they were on the test day. Still a bit of time, half a second to find to Johnny Adam, but it's all getting a bit closer in their GT Pro.
Everything is pointing towards 2 seconds a lap quicker, so I think I was wrong earlier that the track is rubbered in by about 2 seconds over the day.
Yeah.
3 of the class records have been broken for qualifying. LMP1, LMP2, that of course we've had. Simon Trummer
On board,
is
yeah.
that still the same time?
It's the same car, just changed driver, isn't it?
Simon's very good, but Simon doesn't have that kind of pace in him. I don't believe.
Because Petrov set it, didn't he?
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's-
Petrov, yeah.
did it.
Simon's a very, very good driver.
And
but
also GTE AM with the Ferrari number 84 has broken the record.
so that's
Smith
the JMW
Stevens.
car. That,
Yeah.
I suspect, was young Mr. Stevens.
No, that was Van
Dries
Tour
Ventour.
who set it.
Now,
Obviously,
if
it's
you
a
were,
brother.
it's brother of Laurent Ventour.
Laurent, yeah.
And what is that going to do for his career, outpacing a Formula One driver? Everyone said he's the slower brother, but maybe we've missed a trick here somewhere.
He's a younger brother.
Younger brother,
So
yeah.
Not the brother from another mother.
No.
But a quick one at that.
A quick one at that.
Okay, in the
very quick.
meantime, we are on board with the 67 Ford coming through the Porsche curves, through Corvette. Yellow flag being waved at zone 11, which is towards the first chicane on the back straight, the Mulsanne straight. The heat haze decreasing only very slightly on that brilliant long camera shot from the Ford chicane up towards the end of the Porsche curves. Looks like Andy Prio coming in the number 67. Yes, it is. I will always recognise that Guernsey yellow and red cross that he's got on the side of his crash helmet.
just also completed his fastest lap, a 3:52.0. So everything's compressing a little bit in the times in GT Pro. So it's less than 2 seconds, is it?
Magnussen just
Yeah,
gone
it's
quick for
less
that
than,
car.
Less than 2 seconds, the whole of the GT Pro. Now, the whole grid.
Well, that's BOP, isn't it?
It is, very much so. You know, that's being balanced against the Ferrari, and they've done a pretty fantastic job there.
So the manufacturer that seems to be struggling most in GT Pro is Porsche. They're kind of lining up the back.
On board with Nick Tandy as he comes down the back straight. He's past the yellow flag that was before the first chicane on the Mulsanne, coming down towards Mulsanne corner. No, sorry, second chicane, apologies. Past the Labra competition Corvette. And yeah, Peter, you know, he's unsure of what that car was doing there, a bit wary of it. So let's catch up with race direction as to what's going on with the yellows.
Okay, in order not to mess up and create a big area of neutralization, we will have one yellow flag at zone 10, double yellow flag at zone 11, and I'm going to trust the drivers, and I'm going to snatch the car with the money too. So single yellow at zone 10, double yellows at zone 11. Ask your drivers to slow down. We're going to start the snatching now.
It probably is that somebody's gone straight on at the first chicane and sort of gone through those the little tar chicane maybe.
Yeah.
Locked up on the brakes, who knows? Look at that shot. Look at that. Is that Le Mans or what?
Absolutely. this corner never ceases to amaze me. The speed that they carry through the right-hander on the way into Indianapolis, just insane. If you ever get the chance to go and stand there on the bank and watch these cars come through there, it's life-changing. You wouldn't believe what you saw.
Yeah. The thing is, it's hard to get real close to the track there, though. I remember back in the old days, you could get.
Have you
right
seen it now? They've taken the trees away and built the new high bank.
On the left side, is that right?
The new high bank, the cars are way down below you.
But you could get. I remember going out to the right-hand side, so the inside of the circuit, through the forest, and watching the cars just a few meters away, flying by on the brakes into Indianapolis.
It's absolutely stunning.
So that's Andy Prio, who wasn't...
That's Muka on board.
Muka, sorry, yeah. So that's a 66 car. You can see the tyre flapping. He's kind of taking it easy. He doesn't want to rip the bodywork to bits. The team requested that, so we should see him coming into the pits fairly soon. He's not far away.
Jean-Eric Verne in the fireproof white top there. Tor Graves on the right-hand side. They're sharing the number 20.
We're here with Johnny Adam. Johnny, you've just put a scorcher in GTE Pro. Is the car really that, and the track really that quick right now?
Yeah, the track's really changed from yesterday. The track's really rubbered in with a good amount of running today, so car feels better than ever. You know, the guy's done a great job today on setup and getting the car all race ready, and yeah, the tyres working well as well. And I think the track potentially will go quicker now with a cooler ambient. So yeah, good job by everyone.
Do you think this is the right time then, or will you wait until 10 to try and even improve?
Yeah, I think maybe another 10 minutes, and then going into the next session, definitely the first 10 to 20 minutes will probably be the ideal time to put your marker down. So yeah, overall we're happy at the moment, but yeah, there's still all to play for.
Thank you.
That's Johnny Adam from down there at the ProDrive Aston Martin pit. Johnny Adam, who's sharing with Darren Turner and also Daniel Serra as the 66.
So confirmation of what we heard earlier on. The track is definitely a lot quicker than it was yesterday. That for whatever reason, the rubber that's gone down, the other categories have been running. The track is rubbered up and it's quick.
The tyre battle in GTE Pro is something that I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. The fact that these tyres, you know, Michelin Dunlop battle. We've got the Astons on the Dunlop.
Of course, yes.
And then Michelin's there on the Ferrari. So ultimate pace.
Michelin's on everything else. So it's only the Astons that are running Dunlops out there. So we have 1-2 in GT Pro. We did have an Aston on pole yesterday, so we haven't quite seen a time from, say, Pedro Lamy in the 98 car, but as Johnny Adam pointed out, the next sort of half an hour and into the next session will be probably the optimum time to go for that lap.
Just to confirm, still the Toyota on the pole position by nearly 2.5 seconds. The number 7 Toyota ahead of the number 1 Porsche. There is the pole position car. Just let's do some stats for a moment. That is the fastest flying lap, the fastest lap, since the chicanes were put in 1989. The fastest lap ever, as we see that car on the right-hand side that's going to get plucked in a moment, the Manor on the right and the chicane. The fastest lap ever of this circuit in any layout was back in 1971. Pedro Rodriguez in the Porsche 917 3:13.9, but of course that was a lot different in those days, and I think the final chicane wasn't there probably in 1971.
No,
I wasn't born, I don't know, so
you can try that one.
I don't know, and I need to look it up sooner rather than later. Apologies for that, but yeah, that's the quickest lap that we've just seen from Kobayashi since the chicanes have been put in. So quicker than the last pole position with the long Mulsanne.
Yeah. So yeah, if you think about the time lost in braking, slowing down, turning, and getting back up to speed, yeah, that is phenomenal.
And probably Mulsanne was not as tight in those days. It's got a bit more of a 90-degree to it rather than a sweeper.
To be fair, though, the track would have been quite a lot more dangerous around this backside as well. Porsche curves, etc. A lot more narrow. So yeah, it's hard to make a comparison.
You know, but that was the height, not quite the height of the Group C, but as good as with the Mercedes, the Sauber Mercedes.
When they had the big boost, loads of boost, and no fuel restrictions in qualifying, just go, go, go. It became a
qualifying
fuel
tyres,
race,
yeah.
qualifying tyres as well. So when you look at it in that context, it is pretty impressive.
Pole position in 19... Oh, I haven't got it. I was going to say 1989. Hold on, caller, I'll come back to you.
I'm intrigued by the fact that the 25 car got pulled into tech again on the way in. Simon Trummer didn't improve that time, and they got pulled last time after the time was set. So I'm wondering if there is something that the officials were looking at after the time was set, they were wanting to check again. So watch that space.
Yeah.
It's odd for the car to get pulled twice like that.
Pole position car in P2, yeah.
Simon Trummer staying on board, but the car looking like it's going to go back into the garage.
Another great tweet, sorry gentlemen, another great tweet from Alex Wirtz. The Le Mans track is in its best ever shape. Tailwind on the straights, headwind on the Porsche curves. Yeah. Peter, you've got more downforce.
Yeah, Conway did talk about that as well. He got a lot of info. We heard a good little interview when he was talking to his engineer, and he talked about the headwind and how it's keeping the car in line. So rather than pushing it wide, is that a bit of tyre on the exit to that last corner? Out on something. It's a floppy.
The floppies, the magic floppies.
Yeah, so that headwind is keeping the car in line through the Porsche curves, and it's giving you an extra few kilometre an hour down the straights. Hard tyre on the number 9 car, Kunimoto at the wheel.
And 27 laps.
So Kunimoto, I think it's his first Le Mans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Promoted up to the full factory Toyota squad. 25-year-old, I think.
Yeah, pole position back in 89 at 3:15 by one of the Sauber Mercedes with Schlesser, Jabouille and Alain Coudini at the helm.
So we've still got the number 8 Toyota parked up in the garage. They are taking a little bit longer than I would have thought to get that changed. The engine's been split, they've split the gearbox off, they've got to put the floors back on. Be interesting to see how far they've got with that, because I would have thought we would have seen it back out by now. Normally, hour and a half, definitely doable. Wonder if they've had other things to check at the same time, if they've had a recurring issue, or if they know that there's, what's gone wrong. They might want to check it out before they send that car back out to see a repeat of the same fault.
Yeah. Well, they gained a bit of time because of that accident and damage. As we see Richie Stanaway getting into the P2 GTE car. Leading the team there in the pits.
Roman Rusinov's just improved the time of the 26G driver Orica, 3:28.8, putting him 4th in class now.
How did he do that through the yellow flag? Because didn't we see that car getting snatched inside the track?
The other man are getting plucked.
We did, but he definitely has just done it.
Yeah, but it was 4 or 5 minutes ago when we saw that on board of the car getting plucked.
Might
Maybe
have
it had
cleared.
been.
Yeah.
Pluck head out the way.
Yeah.
So take your opportunity.
The Manor getting a windscreen clean. Trying to see if that's Simon Trummer still in the car. No, that's...
No, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And then the iconic helmet there.
But you know who that is straight away.
Let's catch up with what Nico Prost has got to say, or Senna, in that car.
The car was a lot better than yesterday for him. In fact, if it was bottoming and braking, there is a damage on the left front dice plate, so we need to fix that before you go.
You got to believe that that his uncle would have come to Le Mans and had a go.
I think so. True racer. All true racers do. We'll see Fernando Alonso here before long, won't we?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. Yes, viewing figures for the Indy 500 this year going up by 8,000% for some reason.
Yeah, absolutely. and gutting for him that the Honda went bang again. You know, he looked like he had a real chance of that.
But Senna would have got this race as Alonso gets motorsport full stop.
Exactly.
Not just, oh, well, I'm not going because the money's not good enough. No, I want to do this race.
Absolutely.
Same as Mark Webber.
Yep.
You know, he wanted to do it.
Down-to-earth guys that understand real motorsport, passion for it.
So looking at Senna there, the 31 car, he's on soft tyres, so it's obviously cool enough. That's a Dunlop tyre on that car, of course. Most of P2 cars are running Dunlop. There's only, I think, a couple that are running Michelin, aren't there?
I believe there's only
I
two.
saw some Michelin there somewhere. Yeah, the
Keating Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where is definitely one other? Yeah, the
17 car.
Yeah, the IDEX Sport Ligier. Yeah, that Riley's an interesting car. We've not seen much of it. I'm hoping that's not because they're not doing lots of laps. Just looking at the time, Bleekemolen on board that car at the moment. Done plenty of laps.
Quick news message flashing up on our data screens. The Roman Rusinov Oreca, one of the G-Drive Jota cars, being reported to the stewards for overtaking under yellow. So you were absolutely on the money, gentlemen.
Yeah.
That could be my best call of the whole race weekend. I'm going to stick with that. I thought he can't do that time through a yellow flag.
But he overtook anyway.
Yeah,
so he did double. He not only did a quick lap, but he overtook on a yellow.
I think Roman feels this place really owes him something. You know, he's lost a win here. He stood on the top step, and then on Monday morning had it taken away from him with the fuel tank size infringement back in the Oreca 03R days.
You and your fuel tanks.
Oh, that one was painful. That one was painful. Yeah, it was gutting for those guys, but I think he really feels that this place owes it to him.
He is, of course, a world champion in the class.
He is a world champion.
Winning Le Mans it's that. I mean,
exactly.
You know, Peter Closier. You know, what would you prefer to win, a world championship or Le Mans?
Depends what the world championship is, but then yeah, Le Mans. Yes, Le Mans.
It's Le Mans.
Exactly.
You want the Rolex, don't you?
Of course, it's Le Mans.
Stand on that podium and look out over 100,000 people crowding the pit straight on a Sunday afternoon.
You know, Rally Raid. Do you want to win the championship
or the Dakar?
It's the Dakar.
Exactly. So another of the G-Drive. That is Roman returning for his telling off.
Yes, straight into the naughty tent.
Puncture in car 23 as well. So we are seeing again the Ford as well, puncture. I wonder whether they are picking up debris from that crash car earlier on, or whether they're just hitting the curbs that bit extra hard. And yeah, so that's at least 2-3 cars now had punctures.
The fight of the Ligiers in the LMP2 class. You know, we've got Oreca, and then with first Ligier, the United Autosport car, I think that, the 45.
Yeah.
No, the Algarve Pro car. And then a Dallara, then back to Oreca's, you know, so Oreca's still very, very dominant. The track rubbering in isn't helping that Dallara, and I did wonder whether, as the mechanical grip came up, whether the Dallara might find its rhythm and its
straight line speed, yeah.
Quick glimpse there of the Risi Ferrari of Giancarlo Fisichella. He's third in GTE Pro behind the two Aston Martins. So it's Aston, Ferrari, Chevy, Ford, then sixth in class. We have also got Matthias Lauda just having set a new pole position in the GTE AM class with his Aston Martin number 98. So that's Lauda, Lamy, Dallalana.
That was my second call, except I didn't call Lauda. I called Lamy to do the fastest lap.
That's
I
true.
was expecting them to pop back up into the pole position in GTM.
This is not Roman Rusinov.
Ollie Jarvis.
38, yes,
Ollie
Jarvis.
Jarvis.
Yeah. It's Ollie Jarvis.
I know those eyes.
The concentration. as he rattles towards that final chicane.
How's this
Turns
lap
it in.
going? So the second place, it's not looking like a record lap.
This is a longer run for Ollie. He's been out there. I think this is probably his third lap past.
No, the other one was an out lap. Last lap was an out lap. Now he's just done a 3:31. The car's done a 3:26.
Yeah, I think this is him on a high fuel run. Understand what the balance is going to be. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Ollie that was starting the car. So this might be his go out and see what it's going to do as the fuel load comes down run.
Sorry, first flying lap that he's just done, not out lap. First flying lap. Correct myself.
So we're not, car running wide on the exit to the last corner there, but keeping it in a straight line. So we're not seeing the P1 cars. None of them are hitting blue segments anymore. It tends to be the start of the session that these fastest laps go in, the fastest segments, because they can find a clear lap now. A lot of cars on track. The GT cars seem to be able to still set fastest laps, as we saw from Lauda, but no one else really setting the fastest at the moment.
It's amazing. Ollie Jarvis must find it extremely strange getting into this nice simple P2 car, because he hasn't got all the buttons and all the dials, and he's not adjusting brake balances and hybrid distribution and fuel flow, managing all those things constantly. It must just be nice for him to get back into a pure racing car and just go.
So Alex Brundle ready to get in the car next, so I guess Ollie's due in this lap perhaps, if not next lap, and Brundle will get on board.
So another improvement in the GT AM class. Andrea Bertolini on board the 83 Ferrari.
I'm just going to correct myself there
that
Alex Brundle isn't in the same car as Ollie Jarvis. Just correcting myself there. And but
you made some pretty good calls in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I've wrecked it all. I've wrecked it all.
Rear puncture.
Yeah,
punches everywhere.
Well, I think that car's just we were informed about the 23 car. It's taken a long time for him to get back.
That one surprises me. Nathaniel Berton, 2 years ago, he was the man in LMP2 on board the Murphy prototype Oracle 03. He was going to be the next big thing, but he just seems to have been knocked back and back and back and back, and now not really getting the drives in those top teams' cars. On board the Ligier, you know, he's not the quickest Ligier. We're seeing how many Ligiers ahead of him. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the 5th Ligier. So maybe that was him going out to do a time and lost the tyre while he was trying. Nathaniel's done GP2. I think he did some World Series as well. You know, he's an experienced, very, very quick hot shoe on his day. Yellow at zone 11. See what that is.
Zone 11, that's down towards the first chicane on the back straight. Here is Giancarlo Fisichella. He has brought the Risi Ferrari back into the garage, sharing the car with Tony Verlander and also Pierre Caffa. They're one of the IMSA cars, as I could call it. As the new back end of that Barthez competition, Ligier gets put on. Whole lot put on. New wheel obviously being put on, and they'll be back in business in just a moment's time. Don't shut the aerial in the gap.
Can't believe they're only going to change the one tyre.
I thought that.
Maybe they're going to do the work and then change the others.
Ooh.
Or getting wide. That's the corner, I can't remember what it's called, the one just before Tete Rouge.
Forest S's, exit of the Forest S's, yeah.
I mean, that is flat through there, and obviously you're right on the edge, and he was just a bit too high. So we've seen quite a few cars on the exit there, but generally you can hold it, just get it straightened out, bring it back on gradually. Don't panic.
Nobody seems to know what to do.
What's the temperature that tyres are warmed to in the tyre blankets? Is it about 90 or something or other?
No, we don't go that high. just casting my mind back to where we get to. I think we're talking 65C.
Okay.
So they're not at full operating temperature. Operating temperature of the core of the tyre will be anything up to 100C. I would suspect in the middle of the night you're down at 60, 70 degrees C. But you know the rubber's starting to go away and melt if you're starting to go well above the 100 degrees C.
Okay.
Each of the compounds differs in terms of the way it turns on and its operating temperature range, but the guys can monitor that because they can understand the correlation. Even though they can't measure the tyre core temperature, they know the pressure the tyre went out at, and they know the pressure it's come up to, so they've got a very good idea what the core temperature of the tyre is from the data that they've got coming back from the car.
Pressure, the other thing being very important. If you can afford to run the pressure a little bit lower, maybe 1.8, then you would, but generally for us at Falcon, we're targeting about 1.95 to 2. And
that lower pressure just giving you that bigger contact patch, or?
Yeah, just a bit more grip, and you know, it means that your start pressure might be a bit lower and you've got to gradually bring them up. I remember back in when I was doing GT1 World Championship, we used to start at something like 1.2 and aim for them to be about 1.6.
Yeah.
So that's really quite soft.
And if you attack a curb with the pressure that low,
yeah, it blows.
Bang. And that might be what we're seeing.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of punctures here. That's right.
The impact of the serrated edge of the curb can just cut the inside of the tyre, the outside of the tyre. And you see that delamination. Just a small imperfection becomes a blister. The blister goes pop, and then the entire tread breaks away. The actual carcass of the tyre explodes. The compound then typically rolls away from the carcass, which is when you see these bits of rubber that are lying at the side of the track that look like a complete tyre.
But every car that is getting a puncture out there, they will be analysing why and how it's happened, and each car has a tyre engineer, just like the Dunlop man there, standing there. So Dunlop, Michelin, being the main tyre brands here, they will be supplying every car with a tyre engineer, and they will analyse how it's happened and why it's happened. Car on it.
Clearwater Ferrari in the gravel trap,
Well
slippery
spotted,
surface
well
flag
spotted,
as
good.
well.
So we're just at Arnage there. On board with his 7 Toyota.
I can smell
Pole
gearbox
position
oil,
car.
guys. Anyone else smell gearbox oil?
I can. Why are we smelling that in the box here?
I thought it was your new aftershave. Because you know how stinky gearbox oil is.
I think what we've seen there is going into Indianapolis, a load of oil down, and we're smelling it back at pit. So have we got oil the whole way from Indianapolis down to here?
There would be.
Surely people would be off.
The slippery surface flag was out.
You're
on
right.
The entrance.
I can't smell it. How can we smell that from here?
It's not smell-o-vision, not today, but that's a significant amount of gearbox oil that's been burnt to give us that smell in the commentary box.
You are right, though.
We are positioned just on the right-hand side of that Toyota as it comes into the pits. So as it comes past the new BMW pace cars, past the on the way into Indianapolis is that slow sector as this number 7 Toyota, the fastest ever car around this Le Mans circuit in this current configuration. The fastest lap, a lap faster than the lap done in 1989, which was the last time that the Mulsanne straight was a complete straight of nearly 3 miles in length, rather than when the chicanes were put in 1990. What a stunning lap we have seen from Kamui Kobayashi in that number 7 car. Mike Conway has been wheeled into the Toyota garage. We've got 31 minutes remaining in this slightly extended session after there was some barrier repairs that caused a red flag, which means that we should be finishing the session about now, but we're going to run on another half an hour, and then the next session will start in an hour's time, which will be 10 o'clock here local time. It's just coming up to 9 here in France, wherever you are watching around the globe.
You know, thinking about the other Toyotas, the number 8, of course, the number 9 is having an engine change. No, number 8 is having an engine change.
Come back out.
So it's lacking time out there. But if they get that fixed and if it gets out, you've got to expect Nakajima to go and have a go as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the pride at the moment for Toyota is that a Japanese driver holds the record. That is, as you know as well as anybody, Peter, with your experience in Japan, that is just unimaginably big for us here in Europe. Over in Japan, their pride, it will be bursting tonight.
But Kobayashi going and nicking it wouldn't be the worst thing. Sorry, Nakajima going and nicking it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No.
Then they've got the 2 fastest.
Yeah.
It'll be some job to beat it, right enough. But well, first of all, they've got to get the car out there, haven't they? We haven't had any updated information, so it'd be nice to know exactly where they are. Maybe get back to their pits, get some cameras in there, and let's see what they're up to. Maybe Alex Wirtz can let us know. He seems to know everything down there.
Matthias Lauda, son of, makes his way into the pits. He's currently just put that car on the pole position for GTE AM, sharing it with Lamy and Dalla Lana. On the brakes, over the white line, and on the limiter to make sure that he doesn't exceed the pit lane speed limits. Followed in by a Corvette, but those yellow lights burning through the light here as the sun begins to go down. It's just over to our right-hand side, getting lower and lower in the sky, and as the shadows have got longer and longer, classic Le Mans kind of images that we're getting from our TV crew around this 8.5-mile circuit.
Right, Pedro Lamy getting in. Right, Pedro, I put my money on you. So it's time for you to step up, son, and go quicker.
Scottish pound notes getting on the table here, Giles.
I have no comment. When Mr. McNish appears later, if there's not turnips, there is a little parcel been delivered for Alan, and I'm intrigued to know if there's chocolate in it.
No, we know exactly what's in it.
It's sushi, apparently. Plastic sushi from Japan.
It's a present from a Japanese admirer that was given to Alan when he popped up here earlier for a sound check, and it is actually a bit of plastic sushi on a keyring and a bit of plastic sushi on the end of a biro.
Fine. What it is to be famous. Of course, Alan driving for Toyota back in the Formula One days, so I'm sure a big Japanese following, same thing, the culture, the pride that comes with all this. I suspect there's many Japanese Alan McNish fans.
In fact, if you just go down the corridor, there's a Japanese commentary. There's about 7 Japanese in there. And I wish I'd been outside when Kobayashi set the time, because that would be quite
that would have gone up. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe that's what the gearbox oil smell is.
Cooling them. So no green sectors really for anyone. I keep getting tricked by the Eric Maris one, because when he crashed the car, that was a green sector for the car so far that session. But that car definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. Get an update on that if we can shortly. See if the car is going to be repairable tonight, or if we're going to be waiting. Car 69 to respect track limits. Who's on board number 69 at the moment? Ryan Briscoe, getting told that he needs to slow it down through there. ARC Bratislava.
Just chopping out that curb there. What's going to happen with that Porsche?
He's not going to. No, I was going to say, hopefully he's not going to do that. We didn't hear any squealing just in front of our...
Right.
Sarazan
jumping in.
He's no slouch.
Car. Again, yeah.
He is no slouch.
Again, the most experienced really in that car, so sending him out to make sure that all is well.
Wow, what a showdown.
I wonder if we'll ever find out what the issue really was there.
We got a note from Toyota, and they said that it was an oil feed problem. Let me just
Did somebody leave a red cap in?
Due to an oil supply issue.
Take the bung out.
Yeah, maybe it got put in.
Instead of out.
Or that would, and as you know, once the metal goes blue, it's too late.
Too late.
It's too late.
That's the end of it. Yeah.
I blew up a hill climb engine in 4 seconds once.
Expensive.
took it apart and discovered there was not much oil supply.
You stay in the car. We do refuel and we change the front end and rear right-hand side door.
So some changes being done on the number 9. New nose going on, maybe a slightly different aerodynamic configuration. Get the Allen keys tight, get the Allen keys tight, get out the way, roll it back so that they don't clip the back of that Porsche.
I wonder who's going to be the driver who goes for a lap in this car. As in, will it be Lapierre or will Lopez be? Because he was pretty quick yesterday. He was handy, wasn't he?
He's World Touring Car champion. He's no slouch either, is he?
Yeah, but it's just you know, my thoughts were not doubting his ability, but he doesn't know this car quite as well as say Lapierre does.
Exactly, and Lapierre's proven how quick he is in this car.
Let's find out when he crosses this line who it is.
Lopez stayed on board, yeah. So we'll see him go out and see what he can do. We've now got a yellow at zone 12. 47 being told to look at track limits.
Which is exit of the first chicane, Giles, for that yellow.
Andrea Bellicchi in the Dallara running off wide. And car 27 stopped. Car 27 is...
Well, the
Dallara. Alesian in the SMP Dallara.
On board with Sarrazin. Look how bumpy it is. Look how bumpy it is. And they're strapped in tight. Hard tyres.
Not going for a lap. These tyres have already done 20 laps. So this is a tyre wear run. This is understanding what the balance is going to do as the tyres continue to wear. That's not quite, that's a stint and a half so far on those tyres. So they've got quite a long way to go. Ideally, I think we're going to be seeing these guys trying to quadruple stint the tyres.
Okay, we were talking about tyre temperature in the blankets 5-6 minutes ago. Thank you to Dunlop for confirming. Temperature in the blankets around 80. Running temperatures on the car 115.
115?
Yep.
That's why the Dunlop's working.
Yeah.
It can take that temperature.
Yeah, and I know it's another branch of motorsport, but for 2 wheels, for the MotoGP, they're 90 in the blankets and they're 120 on the bike. I'm
shocked by the high temperature the Dunlop's taking. That, for me, is, there's a lot of energy going into them. These cars have got a lot of downforce, but I'd like to ask Michelin the same question, because I suspect that's why we're seeing the Dunlops working in this higher temperature. I suspect if you ask Michelin the same question, they're going to say, over 100, we're struggling.
Yeah, and again, going back to a different form of motorsport, but Nürburgring 24 hours this year was very hot as well. Us at Falcon Tires, we were doing well in the heat. Dunlop was doing well, and Michelin were blowing their tires up a bit more often. So I think the Dunlop brand in general is coping with the temperature a bit better.
I mean, talking to people around the pit lane earlier, the JMW crew are traditionally guys who, they are Dunlop stalwarts. It was the Dunlop JMW team. They've gone with Michelin. And I said, why have you made that decision? Well, okay, yeah, we've got the data, but the Dunlop's got a smaller operating window, was the comment. You know, I found that intriguing because so far, all we've seen all week is that the Dunlop on a GTE car is the tyre to have.
The thing is, it is within that operating temperature, that, you know...
Track temperature high, rubber on.
From my experience, that is exactly correct.
Yeah.
The Michelin has a wider window, but when you get it right, in the Dunlop window, in the Falcon window, then the tyre is working, you know, in the hotter condition better.
Yeah, I'm going to find someone from Michelin and ask them the question, because I suspect they're going to say we don't like the temperature much over 100.
Running temperature on the vehicle. Yeah.
Number 7 coming through. Sarrazin on his outlap.
So if those tyres have done now 21 laps, Mike Conway did quite a long run. We weren't really watching, but he did quite a long run, didn't he? So Kobayashi got back out of the car. Conway went on those hard tyres, did a long run. Now it's Sarrazin's turn. He's probably going to, quite likely to run to the end of the session now, 21 minutes to go.
Absolutely, on those tyres, yeah.
Gentlemen, can you just hold the fort a minute? I've got Lena Gade at the gate, so I'm just going to go and get her.
Absolutely.
She needs no introduction as somebody who's won this race as a race engineer for Audi. So just get the Beetle off. 21 minutes remaining. Hopefully we can get her to stay before the beginning of the next session, which will start in 52 minutes' time. Absolutely.
So riding on board with number 7 now as he comes down into that first chicane. We've got rid of our yellow flags and gains car 27 moving slowly after zone 21. So they're off for Michaela Leishin on his outlap. Seems a little strange. I wonder if that's more of our finger trouble.
Just nice to ride on board for a little while with Stefan Sarazan. Looking at the braking point into the second chicane now.
Lift and coast there?
Yeah, it did seem like it.
So they'll lift and coast if they're looking to save fuel.
Able to hit his apexes quite well. Grip seemed okay through there. That first chicane though, I thought he was slightly offline. Maybe he came in slightly hot.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the headwind, depends on many things.
Yeah, exactly. We know we've got a tailwind down here.
He's finding his way,
yeah,
having just jumped
good
in the
apex
car.
there. Didn't use too much on the exit, so he's keeping nice and neat and tidy there. Quite often you would stick the wheel high over the curb on the exit, but he was able just to keep it in.
Look at that low sun now as we do the run
twilight.
down. Is this the most difficult period when you've got that low sun running down through there?
Yeah, it's not easy. And bearing in mind you're doing over 200 miles an hour down there, and you're keeping the throttle flat, and you've got the sun in your eyes. As you say earlier on, that it's possible that some of them run a darker visor for this time. But as soon as that is a difficult thing actually, because the sun's dropping, so you need a dark visor, and then it gets dark. And if you're still in the car with a dark visor, you're in trouble. So, all these P2 cars now, closed cockpit. Of course, not so long ago they were open cockpit, so you needed to have coloured visors on your helmet. Now you can, you've got a bit more leeway.
That's where I used to be clever with my drivers and tell them, I want you to have a dark tear-off on because you're going in for that bit. Once it goes, away goes that tear-off, and they've got that clear, pure vision. It's little things, it's all those little details that give you the result at the end of the day at on 3 o'clock on Sunday.
So yeah, Brundle on board the 37 car now, hustling the car through.
James Collado bringing the number 51 Ferrari up behind its sister 71 in the GTE Pro class. We see his yellow flag come out on zone 26. But that's an improvement for Collado. So we now have Aston, Ferrari, Corvette, and then the 2 Fords.
Yeah, as I was just talking about Alex Brundle, he has brought that 37 car up to 5th place in LMP2, so improving with that car.
Yeah, Alex, very pleased to be back here, I think, and in terms of the job he's doing, that's pretty solid. They'll definitely be one of the ones in the race that's just there, chipping away in the background, making sure that they're there at the end. Just seeing the onboard there, the Orica passing the Ligier in a straight line, that was quite telling. The Ligier don't seem to have the straight line speed nor the mid-corner grip, and to see it just drive past like that, they both got a good run onto the straight. It wasn't like whoever's in the United Autosport Ligier wasn't trying.
So Buemi getting ready. That's a good sign. That is a good sign. As we know, the number 8 car has been out a while. He left the pits earlier on, had an engine problem, and had to coast back on the battery. And they've changed the engine in that car.
They'll be
not
desperate.
Far away. It should at least get 5 to 10 minutes running. Just get it, running. Get the car rolled out.
Do
ready
the
for the
install lap so that they can get straight on it. Absolutely. Those eyes recognisable anywhere.
Right, so we've got our first proper sort of naughty boy. We've had a lot of warnings for track abuse. track limit abuse. So finally, we're getting someone getting a black and white flag, and that is
Andrea Bellicchi. He got done earlier on twice that I saw, so I think this is the third
culmination of all of that. Yeah.
Surprised that he hasn't had it before now, but here we go. We're going to see, is that Bellicchi? No, that's not Bellicchi. That's a Ferrari. Yep. So easy to do that there, though. I struggle to understand it, whether they're getting a better run through the left and that's then sending them off through the right. They're not expecting it. Riding on board with Nick Tandy now, who's been on a...
Oh, that was Earl
Bamber on a longer run. 3:21.0 last time round. Does 3:21.8, so very consistent lapping there from him. We saw he had traffic.
Yeah, I think everyone is doing kind of longer runs. They're all testing their tyres out, the harder tyre now, to see how long they can go. Some faster laps coming in from the GT arms.
Will Stevens, I didn't think he'd be able to cope with the fact that his teammate had set the time in that car. And sure enough, 3:53.9 from Will Stevens to move the car back onto pole and displace the Aston.
Okay.
And Ewan Hankey as well.
Yes.
3:54.3, putting the car ahead of the Dallalana car down into third place in class.
So Pedro Lamy, who's now on board the 98 car, former pole position car, he's in the pits.
But
so he's had his first run.
Pedro's only done an out and an in, I think. I don't think Pedro's done a flyer, so maybe we're about to see Pedro, 15 minutes to go and stick it on pole. Bruno Senna improving in the Orica, 3:27.5 to go fourth in LMP2. A few improvements there. Gustavo Menezes in the Alpine.
Yeah.
Surprised to see the Alpines that far back in the LMP2 class. I
winner
thought
last year.
Would be up there.
Menezes.
And it is ultimately an Orica with a few tweaks, you know.
Yeah.
A chassis plate glued in there, and they are allowed to do a couple of other smaller things around the homologation on that car, but not a great deal. Lots of green coming on the screen.
Yeah. Bellicchi actually set his fastest lap when he ran wide over the curb as well, so I wonder whether
that'll be coming away.
Yeah.
Collado now in the 51 Ferrari, pulling that now up into second in class, splitting the Astons, 3:52.0.
There's a long way to go still, you know. Another 2-hour session after this, of course, but they're all hitting it hard this final 13 minutes of this session, and you can believe that at the beginning of the next session they will again be, just before it gets properly dark, trying to set the fastest lap. It's a little bit harder as it gets fully dark, but it's still possible as the engines perform better in a cooler temperature.
Yeah, Pile set the fastest Porsche time through on the last, 3:52.5. You know, that's 3:52.5, putting him, that 9th in class against a 3:51.8. It's very, very close.
It is tight.
GTE Pro class.
And we got fastest speed. So his is 286 versus 296. So
there's what Porsche's saying in terms of
10k slower.
There's the time. You know, it's that torque that they're lacking. They need the torque to get that car pushed out of the slow corners to deliver that top speed.
Just popped out the back of the commentary box, gentlemen, and it is classic Le Mans stuff, as you can see with these TV pictures. Will Stevens rushing towards us in the number 84, the JMW Motorsport car that is on the pole position in GTE AM, and in GTE AM, and it is a hell of a lap that he's done. Hell of a lap that he's done with a few minutes remaining in this session. A session in which we have seen that absolute track record that has been set by Kamui Kobayashi earlier, a 3:14.7. I've just had a chance to look at my Twitter. It's the quickest time that we have seen around this racetrack since the chicanes were introduced in 1989. 3:14.79, 3:14.8. Stuckey did that in 85 in a Rothmans Porsche when they really did rattle on down the straights. Let's catch up with what Buemi's got to say.
The target is to do just installation lap, so you do go out in, we take it out of the garage. So we need to check if everything's okay. It's 12 minutes remaining at the moment. And depends how long all the checks start. I reckon we won't have a chance to go again in this session. But we need to make sure cars fine. It's first priority.
Okay, so 12 minutes remaining in this session at the moment. 12 minutes remaining. Toby Moody on the one side of the commentary box, Peter Dubrek in the middle. Lena Gade coming to join us up here in the commentary box. Le Mans winning engineer with Audi in recent seasons, and here in civvies, and here looking around and enjoying yourself. How does it feel not wearing team kit here at Le Mans?
It's absolutely brilliant. There's no stress involved, and I get to go and see things that I would not normally have done if I was here with a race team.
A bit of a moment here for the number 23. That's the Panes Barthez Ligier. That has had a coming together on the exit of the Dunlop chicane, maybe with somebody, but it's in the gravel and they won't be able to get that car out. No, Peter, it's on that quick right, drifting, yeah. And oh dear.
Finally, we've seen, I don't know, 6, 7 cars get run wide there, and finally we've seen someone actually meet the wall. And that's going to take a little while to get that car gone, so we're going to have a yellow zone there.
Yes, that's going to take the JCB. Olivier Panis in the foreground of your shot. Disappointed with that. The boys are now going to have about another 3. Red flag, in fact. Red flag. They've stopped the session with 9.5 minutes remaining. Well, that's a bit unfortunate for that Toyota that's just left the garage. It's thrown there a little bit of data collection for the remainder of the evening. Lena, this is exactly what an engineer doesn't want, does it? You know, you've got a plan, you've got 9 minutes remaining, and then this happens.
Yeah, it doesn't help. And you have to start rethinking what the remainder of the session is going to be like, or what you want to do for the next one.
Is it catch-up? Is there never enough testing that can be done before the race? Let's catch up with Eduardo Freitas in the meantime, Lena.
This session will not be resumed. This session will not be resumed.
Okay, so there's no surprise in hearing that with a 3-minute, 20-second lap to do around here. So, yeah, that's a bit of a shame. That's thrown at even more people now, Lena.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if guys were out there trying to do specific tests on particular bits of the car, they're gonna not be so happy about that, to be honest.
We walked over here quickly from the back of the garages. A 3:14.79, a new absolute track record from the number 7 Toyota with Kobayashi at the wheel. You surprised by that?
It's a stunning lap. Very good lap. I think, obviously, there was a lot of talk before this weekend that the lap times were going to be fast and that records were going to get broken, but that is an impressive one.
Straight through the 15, straight into the 14s.
Yeah, don't bother with that bit. Go to the 14.
Straight through. Obviously, the focus on Toyota, can they do it? They keep knocking on the door with sledgehammers. They brought another car this year to try and batter that door down, as we see this replay of the Panes Barthez car having the moment stopping the session. Do you think they can do it, or is it just you just got to wait for Le Mans to come to you?
Well, I'm sure they've got a plan in place, and it's one that they're going to execute as well as they can. You can't change, things outside of your control. You can only do what you need to best, and they've got to stick with their game plan. I think, obviously, last year, I remember standing on the pit wall and watching that car come to a stop, and you could hear the shock down the pit lane from everybody, stunned that they hadn't made it. And what came next was just horrible. So I hope they do, because it will actually be great to see them cross that finish line with their car and win it. But on the other side, I obviously know a lot of people in a couple of the other LMP1 teams, and I might want them to win.
sharing it around. But, you know, the winning feeling, I mean, the pressure of 364 days of pressure. You know, it starts on the Monday morning after the race this year, and the 4, 5, 30-hour tests that you may have done per year with Audi. It's quite secretive. You don't tell many journalists what exactly has been going on. I know we asked the question of Anthony Davidson yesterday. How many 30-hour tests have you done? Oh, look at that bird over there. Oh, look, there's a pigeon landing on a boat. He changes the subject quite quickly, but it's the relief when you do win Le Mans is it must be unimaginable.
You don't think about it too much. Everything builds up to the race, and it's, you know, there's a strategic plan behind all the tests that you do, the development that you do, what happens in the background in the factory. With the other races, you know, Silverstone and Spa will have been trial runs for these teams to get their stuff together and get prepared for Le Mans. Is there relief when you've done it? There's relief that you can get some sleep, I think, more than anything. And it's not probably, it'll take a while before it sinks in that you've actually got a win. It's quite a strange feeling.
What are your high point memories of working here at Le Mans, or indeed in the World Sports Car Championship full stop? What is in the forefront of Lena Gade's mind? Memories?
Well, I was very spoiled, you know, 9 years with Audi, and I had an incredible amount of success with them. Coming to Le Mans every year was incredibly special. Last year was not. We had a particularly terrible race, especially with my car. But there's lots of little bits and pieces. I can think back to 2008 when I was an assistant engineer on Alan, Tom and Dindo's car, and they took that win. That was great. And obviously there was 2011 with such a small margin.
Sorry to interrupt. Let's catch up with Freitas in the meantime. Okay, he's just telling the cars that they can go a bit quicker to make their way back to the pits. Sorry about that, Lena.
That's okay.
He jumps in now and again.
I remember that from being on the pit wall.
One other thing I'd love to ask is the quality that we hear of the radio messages from the drivers on the TV broadcast. Is that the same kind of audio quality that you would hear from the driver to the pit wall?
Depends. Our radios tended to be quite clear. We used to lose a little bit around Mulsanne at times, but it was relatively clear. There was one year, actually, where we did about, I don't know, 6 hours of the race without a radio. I think it was in 2015. And the only place we had it was just down the front straight. And in the pits, we had no radio either. So we had to hold signs up to tell the drivers what we wanted them to do, change this setting or whatever. But normally the radios are pretty good. Just depends how excited the driver on the other side is, because then you don't hear stuff.
Yeah, yes. Speak less, please. Speak less, please. What's your plan come the 24-hour race? Are you just going to go out and have a look? Are you just going to stand on a bank and have a look? Are you going to be in a grandstand? Maybe you'd come and join us if you've got a minute. That would be great if you could. What's your plan Saturday, Sunday?
I have no plan.
Excellent. Right, can we book you in, please?
You can
we speak
yeah.
to your manager?
The only thing I want to do, I remember from the Truth in 24 film that Ulrich Boretsky mentioned watching sunrise. And I want to do that because it's the one thing I never managed to do whilst at Audi, because I was always still on the pit wall at that point.
From the top of the grandstand above your garage. Yes, you remind me. Yes, Ulrich Boretsky.
Should be a good year for it this year as well.
Yeah.
No rain.
You need rain. It's much more fun.
Actually,
more fun.
Actually, a lot of things happen during in here in the commentary box. When it does rain, it does become quite exciting during the night and that kind of thing. It's terrible as a driver. I hated it when it rained as a driver.
Ollie Gavin just told me that, and I kind of said to him that was his problem.
Yeah. Well, you got to deal with it. That's the thing. You're here to do a job, and you just have to deal with it. But yeah, it's not the nicest of things.
I mean, I remember 2008. It was raining at one end, but not at the other. And Tom had the spin at the Dunlop chicane, and because he had a touch with another car with the Audi, and I mean, it never rains in the commentary box, but there's always quite a bit going on with 4 different classes to keep us on our toes. One of the things that you may not have seen because you're in the paddock, Lena, was there has been tonight a tailwind down the Mulsanne Straight, and therefore a headwind on the Porsche curve one of the reasons why we've seen this record time from this number 7 Toyota. Perfect conditions at Le Mans.
Yeah.
For an engineer and a driver.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible time, and I don't know if anyone would have been able to predict what time they could have had, but that's going to take some beating in the next few years to come.
He was 1.6 seconds up at the Mulsanne. 1.6. 1.6.
We spoke to Andre Lotterer yesterday, and he did think the 16 would fall.
Yeah.
He thought it would be beaten, and he was quite happy that it was Yanni's time that would be beaten first before his time went during the race, because obviously he's got the lap record during the race.
Yeah.
And this is a replay of the end of that lap, and Peter, you may remember when we were commentating it, he got some other cars, but he got them at the right time. He never got a car in a corner. He had a clear lap, a totally clear lap.
Which is rare. It's very rare around here. Jumping for joy, look at him.
He was indeed. And Pascal and all the crew and Japan, well, they've been woken up in the middle of their night because they have got their car with an absolute track record and a Japanese driver driving a Japanese car to get an absolute track record here at Le Mans. The fastest lap around Le Mans since the chicanes have been introduced. Wow.
I'm still wondering what's going to happen with these 4th and 5th place Toyotas, though, because we know the speed is in the car. They're currently 5 seconds behind, so and we now know that the number 8 car is running. It's done its installation lap, so hopefully it's going to get out there and do a qualifying lap. Probably Lapierre at the wheel of at least one of them. So, yeah, and Nakajima, we know he's the qualifying driver of the other car. So I think these guys are going to push for a lap as well.
Well, that'll be interesting to see in the next half an hour. The next session starts in 30 minutes' time, 10 o'clock here, local time in France, and then we'll go for 2 hours, finishing up at midnight. All other things being equal, the track will be a little bit cooler, but the air will be a little bit more friendly towards those engines. We've seen 3 class records out of 4 being taken here this evening. LMP1, LMP2, and the GTE Pro pole position is a new record. The LMP2 record, 3:25.5, quite stunning. Quicker than the 2011 pole position of the Audi R18. 2011, and a car, a rolling chassis LMP2 car that you can buy for €500,000 as a roller, has gone quicker. I mean, wow.
Everything's getting a lot faster. I should remember the 2011 time. It was my car that set pole, but I don't remember what the time was.
It's not
It wasn't that, okay.
There's been so many of them, haven't there?
That was the only one I had.
Yeah, quite something. Well, Lena, there's your grandstand that you can try and find your seat in, and there will be some seats come sunrise on Sunday morning. Hopefully you'll be able to get up early. You'll be able to have a snooze. There's a first for you in a 24-hour race. Or, oh, she's got a cheeky look. Maybe she's going to stay up all for the 24 hours and enjoy the whole thing. We're going to pop off air for a moment. We will be back in just under 30 minutes' time. We'll be starting our next part of the broadcast on top of the hour. So make sure that you come back to Le Mans for more qualifying action.
Die Message auf, genau.